What if the ruins of antiquity hold secrets that defy modern understanding? Picture this: centuries-old stones whispering tales of lost civilizations, structures built with precision that still stump engineers today, and artifacts that hint at knowledge far beyond what we thought ancient people possessed. These aren't just relics of the past, they're enigmas wrapped in time, waiting to be unraveled. From the towering pyramids of Egypt to the mysterious underground cities of Turkey, the ancient world left behind puzzles that challenge everything we think we know about history. And here's the thing: every crumbling wall, every faded inscription, every oddly placed monument might just be a clue to something extraordinary. Imagine standing in the shadow of a massive stone structure, your fingers brushing against carvings that no one alive today can fully decipher. What were they trying to tell us? Were these monuments merely tombs and temples, or did they serve a purpose we've yet to uncover? The deeper you dig, the more questions arise. How did ancient builders move stones weighing hundreds of tons without modern machinery? Why do some ruins align perfectly with celestial events, as if their creators had knowledge of astronomy we didn't think possible for their time? These aren't just academic curiosities, they're gateways to rethinking humanity's entire timeline. That's exactly what we're about to explore. 40 perplexing mysteries lurking in the ruins of antiquity, each one a thread in the grand tapestry of our shared past. Some of these puzzles may never be solved, but the journey of uncovering them is just as thrilling as the answers themselves. So consider this your invitation to step into the shoes of an archaeologist, a historian, or just a curious explorer, and join us as we peel back the layers of time. What will we find? Forgotten technologies, lost civilizations, or something even more astonishing? The only way to find out is to keep watching. There's something irresistible about a mystery, especially one that stood unsolved for thousands of years. Maybe it's the way ancient ruins tug at our imagination, offering just enough clues to hint at their purpose, but never quite giving up their secrets. Or perhaps it's the thrill of standing where someone else stood centuries ago, tracing the same carvings they left behind, and wondering what they knew that we don't. Whatever the reason, humanity has always been drawn to the enigmatic remnants of lost civilizations, as if solving these puzzles could somehow bridge the gap between past and present. Think about the Great Pyramid of Giza, a structure so precise that its alignment with true north is more accurate than many modern buildings. Or Stonehenge, where towering stones were arranged with such care that they still mark the solstices with uncanny precision. These aren't just monuments, they're messages, carefully crafted by people who wanted their knowledge to endure. And yet, despite all our technology and research, we still can't say for certain how they achieved such feats or why they went to such lengths. That tantalizing gap between what we know and what we might never understand is what keeps archaeologists, historians, and everyday explorers coming back for more. But here's the twist: for every famous mystery like the pyramids, there are dozens of lesser-known ruins that are even more baffling. Crumbling cities buried under jungles, underground labyrinths with no clear purpose, artifacts that seem to defy the technological limits of their time. Each one raises more questions than answers. These places aren't just relics, they're challenges, daring us to rethink what we assume about the past, and that's the real allure of ancient mysteries. They remind us that history isn't a neatly wrapped story, but a sprawling, unfinished manuscript with entire chapters still waiting to be deciphered. So what happens when we dig deeper? The answers might just rewrite everything we thought we knew. The story begins with a philosopher's words echoing across millennia Plato's vivid account of a mighty civilization called Atlantis, a paradise of advanced knowledge and unimaginable wealth, lost beneath the waves in a single catastrophic day. For over 2,000 years, his tale has tantalized explorers and scholars alike. Was it merely a cautionary fable about hubris, as some argue, or could there be a kernel of truth buried in those ancient texts? The mystery only deepens when you consider how meticulously Plato described Atlantis, its concentric rings of water and land, its towering temples, even its precise location beyond the Pillars of Hercules. Such specific details seem unusual for a purely fictional allegory, don't they? This ambiguity has fueled countless theories. Some researchers scour the Mediterranean, pointing to the volcanic island of Santorini, where a massive eruption around 1600 BCE devastated the Minoan civilization, a cataclysm that could have inspired Plato's story. Others look further west to the Atlantic Ocean's depths, where sonar scans have revealed strange geometric formations off the coast of the Bahamas, sparking whispers of sunken roads or even walls. Then there's the wilder fringe, claims that Antarctica's ice hides the ruins of Atlantis, shifted there by ancient pole shifts. While these ideas stretch credibility, they reveal how powerfully this legend captivates the human imagination. Modern technology has only amplified the hunt. Side-scan sonar, satellite imagery, and underwater drones now scan the ocean floor with precision unimaginable just decades ago. Expeditions like those near the Azores or the Dogger Bank in the North Sea keep reigniting hope and debate. Yet every potential discovery seems to raise more questions. Take the Bimini Road, a submerged rock formation near the Bahamas that some swear is a man-made causeway. Skeptics call it natural geology, but could it be a fragment of something greater? Here's what makes Atlantis uniquely compelling. It forces us to confront the limits of our knowledge. If it was real, its destruction would rewrite history, proving that advanced cultures rose and fell long before recorded time. If it was fiction, why does the story resonate so universally across cultures, from the flood myths of Mesopotamia to the sunken cities of Indian folklore? Perhaps the truth lies somewhere in between a faded memory of a real disaster, embellished over centuries. Or perhaps, as we'll see next, Atlantis is just one piece of a larger puzzle, where other drowned cities whisper similar secrets from the ocean's depths. Now shift your gaze from sunken cities to the vast desert plains of Peru, where the earth itself is etched with secrets. The Nazca Lines stretch across nearly 200 square miles of arid landscape, a sprawling gallery of geometric shapes, towering animal figures, and intricate patterns so massive they can only be fully appreciated from the sky. A hummingbird with wings wider than a football field, a spider so precisely drawn its legs mirror real anatomy, a spiral so perfectly coiled it seems to pulse with movement. These aren't mere scratches in the dirt, they're masterpieces of scale and precision, created between 500 BCE and 500 CE by a culture that left no written records to explain their purpose. How did the Nazca people achieve such accuracy without ever seeing their work from above? Some researchers suggest they used simple tools and careful measurements, staking out designs with ropes and scaling up small models. Others point to the desert's stable climate, where minimal rain and wind allowed these lines to endure for centuries. But the real mystery isn't just how they were made, it's why. One prevailing theory claims the lines formed a giant astronomical calendar, aligning with solstices or constellations to track time for agriculture. Another argues they were sacred pathways walked during rituals to summon water from the parched earth, a desperate plea to the gods in one of the driest places on earth. Then there's the more speculative angle. Could these glyphs have been meant for viewers not of this world? The mid-20th century saw a surge in theories linking the lines to extraterrestrial visitations, with some claiming the flat, elongated shapes resembled ancient runways for alien spacecraft. While mainstream archaeology dismisses this, the sheer audacity of the designs keeps the idea alive in popular imagination. After all, why would a culture invest centuries of labor into art they could never see in its entirety? Modern technology has only deepened the intrigue. Drones and satellite imagery reveal previously hidden lines, suggesting the network is far more extensive than once thought. In 2020, researchers using AI identified over 150 new geoglyphs, including humanoid figures and surreal, two-headed snakes. Each discovery raises fresh questions. Were these additions made over generations, like a desert canvas slowly filled in, or do they hint at multiple cultures contributing to this open-air archive? The Nazca Lines challenge us to reconsider what ancient people valued and what they understood about their place in the cosmos. If these glyphs were messages, who were they for future generations, the gods, or something beyond our current comprehension? As we ponder this, it's worth remembering, the desert isn't the only place where ancient cultures left cryptic marks visible only from a distance. From the sprawling horse figures of England's chalk hills to the labyrinthine earthworks of the Amazon, our planet is dotted with giant artworks waiting to be read. What if these aren't just relics, but part of a global language we're only beginning to decipher? From the sprawling desert glyphs of Nazca, we turn now to a mystery that fits in the palm of your hand yet has baffled scholars for centuries. The Voinish manuscript is unlike any other book on Earth. Imagine a 240-page tome filled with looping, alien script no one can read, illustrations of plants that don't exist, and astrological diagrams that twist known celestial patterns into unrecognizable forms. Carbon dated to the early 15th century, this enigmatic book has resisted every attempt at translation, from Renaissance cryptographers to modern artificial intelligence. Its vellum pages whisper secrets in a language that may have been lost, or perhaps never existed at all. What makes the Voinish manuscript so maddening is its eerie consistency. The writing flows with the rhythm of a genuine language, complete with repeating word patterns and grammatical structure, yet it matches no known alphabet or cipher. Botanical illustrations depict flora with precise detail: roots, stems, petals, but none correspond to real species. Some pages show naked women bathing in pools of green liquid connected by intricate piping, while others feature zodiac symbols arranged in impossible configurations. Is this a forgotten herbal remedy guide, an alchemist's notebook, or something far stranger? The theories are as wild as the manuscript itself. Some argue it's an elaborate medieval hoax crafted to dupe a wealthy patron, yet the time and skill required to create such a coherent fake seem excessive for the era. Others believe it's a cipher hiding sensitive knowledge behind layers of encryption. During World War II, British and American codebreakers fresh from cracking the Enigma machine took up the challenge and failed. Even today, AI algorithms trained on hundreds of languages detect linguistic patterns but produce no readable translation. Then there's the fringe idea that it's a relic of a lost civilization, or even an attempt to document an entirely alien biology. Yet the most compelling clue might lie in the manuscript's faint marginalia, a single line of Latin script reading "Dixit mecum Deus," or "God told me." Could this be the key? Some scholars now speculate the text is glossolalia, a stream of subconscious language penned during a mystical trance. If true, the Voinish manuscript isn't a code to crack but a window into the mind of someone channeling visions they didn't fully understand. This isn't the only ancient text that refuses to give up its secrets. From the Rongo-Rongo tablets of Easter Island to the Indus Valley script, humanity's written past is littered with untranslated puzzles. Each one taunts us with the same question: how much knowledge have we lost to time? And what if some of these texts weren't meant to be read by human eyes at all? Diving into the depths of the Aegean Sea near the tiny island of Antikythera, sponge divers in 1901 stumbled upon a shipwreck that would rewrite history. Among the corroded bronze statues and shattered pottery lay a lump of encrusted metal unremarkable at first glance, until someone noticed the delicate gears peeking through the decay. This was the Antikythera Mechanism, a 2,000-year-old device so advanced it wouldn't be matched for over a millennium. Imagine a shoebox-sized bronze machine with interlocking gears finer than a Swiss watch, capable of predicting lunar eclipses, tracking the 4-year cycle of the Olympic Games, and modeling the erratic motion of planets across the sky. This wasn't just an ancient calendar, it was a mechanical cosmos, a miniature universe spun from bronze. X-rays and modern imaging have revealed the mechanism's staggering complexity. At least 37 meshing gears, some with teeth cut at precise angles to account for celestial irregularities, worked in harmony to simulate the heavens. One dial even accounted for the Saros cycle, a repeating 18-year pattern of eclipses with accuracy that would make modern astronomers nod in respect. The real shock: devices of comparable sophistication don't appear again until 14th century European clock towers. So how did ancient Greeks, without precision tools or industrial manufacturing, create something that feels centuries ahead of its time? The genius behind the mechanism likely traces back to the island of Rhodes, home to famed astronomers like Hipparchus, who pioneered trigonometry. Some scholars speculate it was a teaching tool designed to demonstrate celestial mechanics to students. Others believe it guided religious festivals or agricultural cycles. But here's the haunting question: was this device unique, or did an entire tradition of ancient high technology vanish beneath the waves? Cicero himself wrote of a similar machine built by Archimedes, lost when Rome sacked Syracuse. Could the Antikythera Mechanism be a lone survivor of a forgotten golden age of mechanical engineering? This discovery forces us to reconsider the technological ambitions of antiquity. We think of ancient civilizations as masters of stone and simple machines, yet here's proof they manipulated metal with near microscopic precision. What else might have existed? Hero of Alexandria described steam-powered automatons in the 1st century. The Baghdad Battery hints at ancient electrical experiments. Even Plato's dialogues reference lost inventions, too great for the people of his time to understand. The Antikythera Mechanism isn't just a relic, it's a warning. How much brilliance has been erased by war, disaster, or the slow erosion of time? And what might we rediscover next, waiting in some unopened tomb or undiscovered wreck that could shatter our assumptions once again? Perhaps the most humbling thought is this: if a single shipwreck could yield such a marvel, how many other revolutionary ideas lie buried, their creators long forgotten? The ancient world buzzes with whispers of lost knowledge, from Damascus steel that could slice through stone to Roman concrete that heals itself in seawater. Each one suggests our ancestors were far more inventive than we've credited them for. The Antikythera Mechanism doesn't just connect us to the past, it challenges us to wonder what future generations might uncover about our own era's forgotten breakthroughs. After all, the sea keeps its secrets well, but not forever. The Great Pyramid of Giza has stood as the ultimate symbol of ancient ingenuity for over 4,500 years, yet it still guards its deepest secrets behind limestone walls. In 2017, a team of scientists made a staggering announcement. They discovered a massive hidden chamber using cosmic rays, not with shovels or drills, but with subatomic particles called muons that rain down from space, penetrating stone like X-rays through flesh. This 30-meter-long void, dubbed the Big Void, lies above the Grand Gallery, its purpose as mysterious as the pyramid's own construction. Is it an undiscovered burial chamber, a structural relief space, or something far more unexpected? Mainstream archaeologists cautiously suggest it might be a construction gap left to reduce pressure on the Grand Gallery below. But the void's precise alignment with the pyramid's central axis raises eyebrows. Why would builders take such care with an empty space? Fringe theorists propose wilder ideas, that the chamber hides advanced technology, perhaps even the legendary Hall of Records said to contain Atlantean knowledge. Others speculate these spaces could be resonant chambers, designed to amplify energy or frequencies in ways we don't yet understand. After all, the pyramid's interior shafts align with stars like Orion's belt with eerie precision, and its limestone blocks contain traces of minerals that some claim have piezoelectric properties. The muon scans revealed more than just the Big Void. Hidden corridors branch like veins beneath the stones, including a 9-meter passage behind the chevron-shaped blocks on the north face. In 2023, an endoscopic camera snaked through a tiny gap in these blocks, revealing a corridor with a vaulted ceiling, a feature never before seen in pyramid architecture. Could this be the entrance to another sealed chamber? The debate intensifies when you consider that less than 20% of Egypt's known pyramids have been thoroughly scanned. If Khufu's monument hides such surprises, what might lie undiscovered in the bent pyramid of Sneferu or the labyrinthine interior of the pyramid of Djoser? What makes these discoveries so thrilling isn't just what they reveal, it's what they imply about ancient engineering. The pyramid's builders didn't just stack stones, they designed with intention, creating spaces that modern technology can barely detect. Some researchers now suspect the entire structure might function as a cosmic antenna, its chambers and shafts tuned to celestial rhythms. Others point to ancient texts describing the pyramid as a machine, vibrating with energy during initiation rituals. While mainstream science dismisses these claims, the very existence of hidden spaces suggests we've underestimated ancient architects. They didn't build for the present, they built for eternity, embedding knowledge in stone, waiting for future generations to develop the tools to uncover it. Perhaps the most humbling thought is this: after centuries of exploration, we've only scratched the surface of the pyramid's secrets. Every new scan, every robotic probe reveals another layer of complexity. If 2 million stone blocks can hide voids the size of subway tunnels, what else might be concealed in plain sight? As we turn our attention to other ancient megastructures, from the stepped pyramids of Mesoamerica to the enigmatic mounds of China, we're left wondering, how many other civilizations built not just for their time, but for a future they could only dimly foresee? Buried beneath the dust of a 2,000-year-old Parthian village near Baghdad lies an artifact that shouldn't exist: a simple clay jar, no taller than your hand, with a copper cylinder inside and an iron rod protruding through an asphalt seal. Fill it with vinegar or grape juice, and this unassuming object becomes something extraordinary: a functioning battery. Known as the Baghdad Battery, this discovery in 1936 upended assumptions about ancient technological sophistication. When replicated by researchers, these jars produced around 1 volt of electricity, not enough to power a light bulb, but sufficient for subtle, mysterious purposes lost to time. What could the ancients have used electricity for? One compelling theory points to electroplating, the process of coating one metal with another using an electric current. Artisans in Mesopotamia were masters of gilding, adorning objects with thin layers of gold that seemed magically bonded. Modern experiments show the Baghdad Battery could electroplate a silver statuette with gold in just 2 hours, mirroring artifacts found in the region. But electricity's uses might have been more than practical. Imagine priests using these devices in darkened temple chambers, producing faint sparks to awe worshippers, or healers employing mild currents in early medical treatments. The ancient Greeks wrote of electric fish being used to numb pain. Could the Baghdad Battery have served a similar purpose? The real puzzle isn't how it worked, but why such a revolutionary technology seemingly vanished without a trace. Unlike the Antikythera Mechanism, which reflects a known tradition of Greek engineering, the Baghdad Battery stands alone. No ancient texts mention it, and no similar devices have been found elsewhere. Some scholars argue it was a dead-end invention, abandoned when its creators couldn't scale its power for broader use. Others propose it was a closely guarded secret of temple elites, lost when their civilizations collapsed. The most tantalizing possibility, that we've mislabeled other artifacts. What if ornate rods or sealed vessels in museum basements are misunderstood power sources waiting to be recognized? This solitary jar forces us to reconsider the boundaries of ancient innovation. If one culture stumbled upon electricity, what else might have been discovered and forgotten? The Roman Emperor Nero's legendary rotating dining room, powered by hidden mechanisms, hero of Alexandria's steam-powered automata, Chinese texts describing self-moving carriages with mysterious inner workings. The Baghdad Battery hints at a shadow history of technology, not as a linear march of progress, but as a flickering candle, sometimes burning bright, often snuffed out by war, time, or sheer happenstance. Perhaps the most humbling lesson lies in the materials themselves. Copper, iron, vinegar, components any ancient civilization could access. The genius wasn't in complexity, but in seeing potential where others saw only ordinary objects. As we marvel at our smartphones and satellites, it's worth remembering, breakthroughs don't always require advanced resources, just the creativity to reimagine what's already in our hands. And if a clay pot could hold such secrets, what other everyday artifacts from the past might be quietly waiting to rewrite history? Deep in the steamy jungles of Costa Rica's Diqui's Delta, an ancient enigma sits half-buried in the earth. Hundreds of perfectly spherical stone balls, some as small as a grapefruit, others towering taller than a person and weighing over 16 tons. Discovered in the 1930s when United Fruit Company cleared land for banana plantations, these orbs are so precisely carved that modern engineers struggle to explain how pre-Columbian artisans achieved such geometric perfection without metal tools or measuring devices. The surfaces are unnervingly smooth, their curves so exact that when researchers measured them with laser scanners, deviations from true roundness were often less than 2 millimeters, comparable to the precision of industrial machining. Who created these spheres and why? The indigenous Boruca and Diquis peoples likely crafted them between 300 and 1500 CE, but their purpose remains hotly debated. Some archaeologists believe they marked tribal territories or sacred sites, noting clusters near burial grounds and ceremonial plazas. Others propose they functioned as celestial markers, arranged to mirror constellations or solstice alignments, a theory bolstered by the discovery of spheres positioned in straight lines pointing to magnetic north. Then there's the tantalizing connection to water. Many spheres cluster near rivers or springs, suggesting they might have been offerings to deities controlling rain and fertility. The real marvel lies in their construction. Using only stone hammers and abrasives, artisans shaped volcanic gabbro and limestone into flawless forms. Some spheres show evidence of being heated and cooled repeatedly, a technique that may have helped fracture the rock along precise lines. But how did they transport these massive stones through dense jungle? Local legends speak of a mythical, flying raft used by gods, while modern experiments suggest log rollers and rope systems. Though moving a 2-ton sphere even short distances would require coordinated labor on a staggering scale. What's haunting is how many mysteries were lost to time. When Spanish colonizers arrived in the 16th century, disease and displacement shattered indigenous cultures, severing oral traditions that might have explained the sphere's meaning. Many were dynamited by treasure hunters or rolled into gardens as ornaments before preservation efforts began. Today, UNESCO protects key sites, yet over 300 spheres remain unexcavated, their contexts and clues eroded by centuries of floods and farming. The Diqui spheres aren't alone in their mystery. From Scotland's carved petrospheres to Mexico's obsidian, mirror stones, ancient cultures worldwide invested extraordinary effort in shaping rocks into perfect forms. Was this a universal human impulse, to tame chaos into symmetry? Or could these artifacts share a deeper, forgotten connection? As we turn next to the monolithic statues of Easter Island, that question lingers. Why did so many civilizations, separated by oceans and millennia, become obsessed with stone's silent language? The jungles of Central America hold more than towering pyramids and intricate stone carvings. They cradle one of history's most baffling vanishing acts. Around the 9th century CE, the Maya civilization, a society that had flourished for over 2,000 years with advanced mathematics, astronomy, and sprawling city-states, began to crumble. Not with a single cataclysm, but in a slow, eerie unraveling. Imagine walking through the heart of Tikal at its peak, temples gleaming with stucco paint, plazas bustling with merchants, scribes recording celestial events in precise hieroglyphs. Now picture those same streets centuries later silent, reclaimed by vines, the great ball courts empty, the observatories stilled. What could make a people so deeply rooted in their land simply walk away from their achievements? Clues point to a perfect storm of disasters. Tree rings from the region reveal brutal droughts spanning decades, possibly exacerbated by deforestation as the Maya cleared land for agriculture. Soil studies show that their intensive farming practices, once capable of feeding millions, may have degraded the very earth that sustained them. But environmental stress alone doesn't explain why some cities collapsed while others, like Chichen Itza in the north, thrived for centuries longer. Warfare seems to have played a role. Monuments from the final years depict rulers in desperate battles, and mass graves hint at violence on a scale unseen in Maya history. Yet even this fails to account for the totality of the collapse. If it was just war or famine, why didn't survivors rebuild, as cultures have done for millennia after devastation? The mystery deepens when you consider what wasn't lost. Unlike the Roman Empire's fall, which scattered knowledge across Europe, the Maya collapse saw their writing system, one of the few fully developed scripts in the ancient Americas, nearly vanish. Astronomers who could predict eclipses centuries in advance seemingly left no apprentices. Engineers who built reservoirs to weather dry seasons abandoned their technology. This wasn't just a political collapse, it was a rupture in cultural memory. Some scholars argue the Maya didn't disappear at all. They simply dispersed, their descendants blending into other Mesoamerican groups. Modern Maya peoples still preserve fragments of the old ways in their languages and traditions, but the urban heartbeat of their ancestors never returned. What makes the Maya story so haunting is how familiar it feels. A civilization pushing against ecological limits, strained by social inequality, fracturing under the weight of its own complexity. It's a narrative that echoes uncomfortably in our own time. Their abandoned cities stand as silent tutors, teaching us that no society, no matter how brilliant, is immune to the tides of change, and they're not alone. From the Indus Valley's meticulously planned cities to the Greenland Norse colonies that vanished into the ice, history is littered with cultures that thrived, then faltered, leaving behind puzzles we're still piecing together. Each one whispers the same urgent question: what does it take for a civilization to endure, and what warnings might these ruins hold for us today? High in the Andes, overlooking the ancient Inca capital of Cusco, the fortress of Saxehuaman stands as a stone puzzle that defies logic. Its walls rise in jagged, interlocking tiers built from colossal limestone blocks, some weighing over 120 tons, cut and fitted together so tightly you can't slip a piece of paper between them. No mortar binds these stones, yet they've withstood centuries of earthquakes that leveled later Spanish constructions. The precision is mind-boggling. Curved surfaces conform perfectly to neighboring angles, edges meet with microscopic accuracy, and the entire structure follows the natural contours of the mountain in a way that seems to merge architecture with geology. How did the Inca, working without iron tools, the wheel, or even a written language, achieve such perfection? One theory points to simple but ingenious techniques. Archaeologists suggest stonemasons used hammerstones to pound granite and limestone into shape, slowly grinding surfaces against each other until they locked like three-dimensional jigsaw pieces. Trial fittings would leave telltale marks, guiding adjustments until the fit was flawless. Ropes, ramps, and sheer manpower could have moved these megaliths, leveraging the Incas' sophisticated understanding of physics and teamwork. Yet even this explanation strains credibility when you examine the most complex joint stones with 12 or more angles, each meeting seamlessly. Modern engineers using laser-guided tools would struggle to replicate such craftsmanship. This has fueled speculation about lost technologies or forgotten knowledge. Some researchers point to local legends describing a plant-based liquid that could soften stone, allowing artisans to mold blocks like clay before they hardened. Spanish chronicles mention such a substance, though no evidence has been found. Others propose the Inca inherited techniques from an even older civilization, pointing to nearby ruins like Ollantaytambo, where massive stones show similar precision but predate Inca dominance. The most controversial theories suggest acoustic levitation or advanced vibration tools, ideas dismissed by mainstream scholars but persistent in fringe circles. What makes Saxehuaman truly remarkable is how it mirrors other ancient megalithic sites across the globe. The polygonal walls of Delphi in Greece, Japan's subterranean chambers at the Asuka Pyramid, Easter Island's mysteriously fitted platforms, each culture separated by oceans and millennia, arrived at the same solution: stonework so precise it feels like a shared architectural language. Was this simply the universal endpoint of stonemasonry, or could there be a deeper connection lost to time? Perhaps the answer lies not in the how, but the why. These walls weren't just functional, they were sacred. The Inca believed stones held life force, and the effort expended in shaping them was an act of reverence. In a world without written records, maybe these impossible joins were their testament, a message carved in geology. We were here, and we mastered the earth itself. As we turn next to the floating stones of Baalbek, the question lingers: how many other ancient builders left similar challenges etched in stone, waiting for us to decipher their secrets? In the Topkapi Palace Museum in Istanbul, a fragile parchment sits under glass, a map drawn in 1513 by Ottoman Admiral Piri Reis, showing coastlines no European should have known existed. The real shock: its depiction of Antarctica's northern edge, rendered with glacial valleys and rivers as if the cartographer had seen the continent free of ice, something impossible in the 16th century, when Antarctica remained undiscovered and its icy shell had concealed the land beneath for millennia. How could a medieval mapmaker chart a continent buried under miles of ice, thousands of years before modern sonar revealed its true shape? Theories swirl like ocean currents around this enigma. Some scholars argue the map is a composite, pieced together from lost Greek or Phoenician sources dating back to the 4th century BCE, a time when seafaring cultures might have possessed knowledge later erased by wars or disasters. Ancient texts like the now lost writings of Marinus of Tyre describe world maps far more accurate than medieval European cartography, hinting at forgotten traditions of exploration. Others propose even wilder possibilities, that advanced Ice Age civilizations now submerged mapped the world before rising seas consumed their cities. The map's own notes fuel these speculations. Reis credits his work to 20 older sources, including charts used by Christopher Columbus, who some believe had access to pre-deluge knowledge. Modern analysis adds layers to the mystery. When overlaying the Reis map with modern projections, certain latitudes align with startling precision, while others skew dramatically. Its portrayal of South America includes the Andes Mountains, unknown to Europeans at the time, and the Amazon appears twice, possibly reflecting seasonal flooding patterns only locals would recognize. But the Antarctica detail remains the most baffling. In 1956, a seismic survey confirmed the map's rendering of the continent's subglacial topography matched reality, particularly Queen Maud Land's coastline. Could this be coincidence or evidence that someone, somewhere, once walked Antarctica's ice-free shores and recorded what they saw? Critics counter that the Antarctica on the map might instead be a distorted South America or an imaginary southern landmass based on myth. They note that the map lacks the continent's distinctive circular shape, and its climate notes describe warm weather unsuitable for the frozen South. Yet even skeptics admit the map holds anomalies defying period knowledge. Its use of spherical trigonometry suggests access to mathematical techniques thought lost since antiquity, and its grid lines mirror those used by ancient mariners navigating by celestial angles. The Reis map isn't alone in its defiance of history. The Buwach map of 1737 shows Antarctica split by inland seas matching modern subglacial scans. The Orontius Phineus map of 1531 depicts rivers and mountains where only ice exists today. Together, they form a tantalizing pattern, scattered fragments of a possible prehistory where advanced cartography existed long before we assumed it did. What other secrets might lie hidden in the vaults of old libraries or beneath layers of palimpsests? If a single Ottoman admiral's work can upend our timeline, how many other maps await rediscovery, holding whispers of lost explorers who charted the world long before recorded history began? Beneath the quiet villages of Zhejiang province in China lies an underground world that defies explanation. The Longue caves, discovered in 1992 when a curious farmer drained a local pond. These caverns stretch across an astonishing 30,000 square meters, their ceilings soaring as high as 10-story buildings. But what makes them truly extraordinary isn't their size, it's the fact that every inch was carved by hand. Smooth walls slope at perfect 60-degree angles, stone pillars stand with mathematical precision, and intricate parallel chisel marks cover every surface like ancient fingerprints. The scale is staggering. Early estimates suggest removing nearly 1 million cubic meters of stone, equivalent to building 15 Great Pyramids of Giza, yet not a single historical text, folktale, or local legend mentions their construction. How could such a colossal project vanish from memory? the cave's purpose is as enigmatic as their origins. Some archaeologists propose they were quarries, mined for the fine-grained siltstone used in nearby structures. But why carve such elaborate, uniform chambers instead of simple pits? Others suggest they served as imperial granaries or military hideouts, yet no traces of grain, weapons, or occupation debris have been found. Then there's the acoustical oddity. Certain chambers amplify whispers with eerie clarity, leading to theories of ritual spaces where sound played a sacred role. Local villagers recount older generations speaking of the caves as bottomless ponds that could never be drained, hinting at forgotten beliefs about these subterranean realms. Perhaps the most baffling aspect is the engineering. Without advanced tools, how did workers calculate weight distribution to prevent collapses? The walls bear markings identical to those on pottery from the Western Han Dynasty around 2,000 years ago, but the technology implied precise angle measurement, large-scale project coordination, seems centuries ahead of its time. Even more perplexing, the cave's structural design mirrors natural erosion patterns found in sandstone formations, as if the builders intentionally mimicked nature's hand. Was this aesthetic choice or a clue to deeper knowledge of geology? The Longue caves aren't alone in their mystery. From Turkey's Derinkuyu, an underground city housing 20,000, to the labyrinthine tunnels beneath Malta's temples, cultures worldwide have burrowed into the earth with unexplained purpose. What unites these sites is their silence: no records, no blueprints, just echoing chambers waiting for us to listen. As we turn next to the sunken ruins of Yonaguni, the question lingers: did ancient peoples know something about the Earth's hidden spaces that we're only beginning to rediscover? In the scorching sands of China's Taklamakan Desert, a discovery in the 1980s shattered long-held assumptions about ancient migration. A collection of mummies with striking European features, preserved for over 4,000 years by the arid climate. These Tarim mummies, with their high cheekbones, long noses, and reddish-blonde hair, lie wrapped in finely woven woolen textiles, their faces so intact they seem merely asleep. Some wear tall, conical hats reminiscent of Bronze Age European cultures, while others rest beside wheels and wooden carts that wouldn't look out of place in ancient Mesopotamia. How did people with such distinctly Caucasian features end up buried in the heart of Asia, thousands of years before the Silk Road connected these distant worlds? Genetic testing has only deepened the puzzle. Analysis reveals these individuals carried DNA linked to the ancient Yamnaya people of the Eurasian steppe nomadic herders who ranged from the Black Sea to the Altai Mountains. Yet the Tarim mummies show no signs of mixing with East Asian populations, suggesting they lived in isolation for centuries. Their burial goods add another layer of intrigue: cheeses made with techniques known in Europe, medicinal herbs like ephedra used in both Greek and Vedic rituals, and even remnants of a harp-like instrument found in Celtic tombs. This wasn't just a wandering band of traders, it was an entire community carrying their culture across continents. Theories about their journey range from the plausible to the provocative. Some scholars propose they descended from the Afanasevo culture, a group of early Indo-Europeans who migrated eastward around 3000 BCE. Others suggest they might represent the elusive Tocharians, a Caucasian people described in later Chinese texts as inhabiting the Tarim Basin. The most tantalizing idea, that these mummies hint at a lost branch of humanity's family tree, a group who traveled further and earlier than we ever imagined, leaving traces in places modern archaeology is only beginning to explore. What makes the Tarim mummies so revolutionary isn't just their existence, it's what they imply about ancient connectivity. Long before written history, people moved across vast distances, carrying ideas, technologies, and traditions that shaped civilizations we think of as separate. The wheat and barley found in their settlements originated in the Fertile Crescent. Their weaving techniques mirror those of the Hallstatt culture in Austria. Even their language, reconstructed from surviving texts, shows eerie similarities to archaic Germanic and Celtic tongues. This isn't just a story about one group's migration. It's evidence that the ancient world was far more interconnected than we've dared to believe. As we piece together these fragments, a startling picture emerges. History isn't a series of isolated cultures developing in parallel, but a web of exchanges stretching back to humanity's earliest days. The Tarim mummies force us to reconsider not just who moved where, but how those movements might have seeded innovations across continents. If Bronze Age herders could traverse steppes and deserts to settle in distant lands, what other forgotten journeys might lie buried beneath the sands, waiting to rewrite our understanding of the past? Rising from the dusty plains of southeastern Turkey, Göbekli Tepe shatters everything we thought we knew about the dawn of civilization. This sprawling complex of carved limestone pillars, some weighing over 20 tons and standing nearly 20 feet tall, dates back an astonishing 12,000 years, predating Stonehenge by 6 millennia and the Great Pyramids by 7. But here's what truly rewrites history. This monumental site was built by hunter-gatherers centuries before the advent of agriculture or permanent settlements. How could nomadic peoples, supposedly focused only on survival, orchestrate such an ambitious project? And why would they invest generations of labor into a structure with no obvious practical purpose? The sophistication of Göbekli Tepe is staggering. Its T-shaped pillars aren't just crude monoliths, they're masterfully carved with intricate bas-reliefs of scorpions, foxes, and vultures, their details so precise they seem to writhe across the stone. Some pillars even depict human arms and hands, suggesting these weren't mere decorations but representations of otherworldly beings or ancestors. The layout is equally deliberate. Circular enclosures, each centered on two massive pillars, are buried intentionally under layers of earth in what archaeologists believe were ritual closures. This wasn't haphazard construction. It was a sacred act repeated over centuries by a culture we're only beginning to understand. What's most revolutionary isn't just the site's age, but what it implies about human development. For decades, the dominant narrative held that agriculture came first, that only after settling down to farm did humans have the surplus time and resources to build temples. Göbekli Tepe flips this on its head. Here, evidence suggests the temple came first, drawing scattered bands of hunter-gatherers together for ceremonies that may have planted the seeds of communal living. Animal bones from feasts found at the site hint at large gatherings, while the sheer scale of labor required implies early forms of social organization. Could religion, not agriculture, have been the catalyst for civilization? The mystery deepens when you consider the builder's knowledge. Some pillars align with celestial events, like the summer solstice, while carvings of what might be comets or meteor showers suggest advanced sky watching. Even more perplexing is the site's eventual burial, not by natural erosion but by human hands. Around 8000 BCE, the inhabitants carefully filled in the entire complex with thousands of tons of soil, preserving it like a time capsule. Was this an act of reverence or fear? A response to some forgotten catastrophe, or part of a cyclical belief system we've yet to decipher? Göbekli Tepe forces us to reconsider the timeline of human achievement. If hunter-gatherers could create such a site, what other pre-agricultural marvels might lie hidden beneath our feet? From the submerged monoliths of the Mediterranean's Atlat Yam to the geometric earthworks of the Amazon, scattered clues suggest Göbekli Tepe isn't an anomaly. it's a glimpse of a lost chapter in our story. Perhaps the roots of civilization run deeper and stranger than we ever imagined, waiting to be uncovered in places we've barely begun to search. Stretching across the windswept plains of Brittany, France, the Karnac stones stand in silent formation over 3,000 megaliths arranged in eerie, precise rows that march across the landscape like soldiers frozen in time. Some tower twice the height of a person, while others crouch low to the earth, their surfaces weathered smooth by 6,000 years of rain and wind. What's most striking isn't just their scale, but their arrangement, nearly 4 kilometers of nearly parallel lines, with some stones placed at exact intervals, creating patterns that seem to pulse with intention. Were these markers for celestial events, a colossal seismic alarm, or perhaps something far more enigmatic, lost to the ages? The astronomical theory holds compelling weight. Certain alignments correspond to solstice sunrises and moonrises, suggesting the stones functioned as a primitive calendar or observatory. One particular formation, the Grand Menhir Brisset, once stood 20 meters tall, the largest known erected stone from prehistoric Europe. When intact, its shadow may have interacted with other megaliths to mark seasonal changes critical for agriculture. But here's the twist. Recent studies reveal some rows also align with geological fault lines. French geologists discovered that the stone's placement coincides with areas of underground seismic activity, leading to a provocative idea. Could these monoliths have acted as an ancient earthquake detection system? Vibrations might have caused stones to sway or produce audible frequencies, warning early communities of impending tremors. Yet the spiritual significance of Karnac lingers in every weathered crevice. Local legends speak of the stones as a Roman army turned to rock by Merlin's magic, while older Breton tales describe them as a sacred procession of pagan priests. Archaeologists note the area's abundance of burial mounds and dolmens, hinting at a funerary landscape where the living communed with ancestors. The sheer effort required to erect these stones, quarried from miles away, transported without wheels, and erected using only ropes and leverage, suggests a purpose beyond the practical. This was a place where cosmology, geology, and ritual intertwined, where every aligned stone might have been a prayer etched in granite. What makes Karnac truly remarkable is how it mirrors other megalithic sites across ancient Europe. From Scotland's Callanish stones to Portugal's Almenda's cromlech, these structures share uncanny similarities in design and alignment, despite being built by cultures separated by centuries and seas. Could there have been a shared tradition of stone lore passed down through generations of Neolithic builders? Or is this evidence of humanity's universal impulse to make sense of the cosmos through the most permanent medium available, the Earth itself? The Karnac stones challenge our assumptions about prehistoric Europe's sophistication. These weren't primitive people haphazardly stacking rocks. They were keen observers of earth and sky, architects of a language written in stone that we're still struggling to translate. As we turn to the next mystery, the question lingers. If ancient Europeans could encode such complex knowledge into these silent sentinels, what other forgotten wisdom might lie buried beneath our feet, waiting for the right key to unlock its secrets? On the most isolated inhabited island on Earth, the silent sentinels of Rapa Nui stare inland with hollow eyes, nearly 900 moai, some weighing as much as 80 tons, carved from volcanic rock and transported miles across rugged terrain without wheels or draft animals. These towering figures, with their elongated features and solemn expressions, represent one of archaeology's most enduring puzzles. How did a society with no metal tools, no written language, and no contact with the outside world move such colossal stones? The answer lies in a blend of ingenuity, mythology, and a cautionary tale about humanity's relationship with nature. For decades, researchers assumed the statues were dragged horizontally on wooden sledges, a theory supported by the island's oral traditions, which speak of the moai walking to their ceremonial platforms. Experiments in the 1980s showed teams could move replica statues this way, but the method would have required vast amounts of timber. That posed a problem. When European explorers arrived in the 18th century, Easter Island was nearly treeless, its landscape scraped bare. This led to the infamous ecocide narrative that the Rapa Nui people deforested their own island to move statues, triggering societal collapse. But recent discoveries have upended this simplistic story. Soil analysis reveals the island's palm forests didn't vanish overnight. They declined gradually over centuries due to climate shifts and rat infestations. Rather than reckless monument builders, the Rapa Nui adapted ingeniously. Archaeologists now believe the statues were transported upright in a rocking motion, walked by teams using ropes in a method similar to moving a refrigerator. This technique, demonstrated in experiments, requires far less wood and aligns with local legends of the moai moving with supernatural assistance. Even more fascinating, the roads they traveled weren't flat but slightly concave, allowing the statues to be stabilized during transport, a detail suggesting generations of refined engineering knowledge. Yet the true mystery of Easter Island isn't just how the moai moved, but why their movement stopped. By the 17th century, statue production had ceased abruptly. The iconic platforms, or ahu, were toppled, and birdman cults replaced moai worship. The traditional explanation that resource depletion caused violent societal collapse has been challenged by evidence of continued habitation and cultural innovation. Instead of sudden catastrophe, the Rapa Nui likely underwent a deliberate transformation, shifting priorities as their environment changed. Their story isn't one of failure, but resilience, a society that redefined its values when old ways became unsustainable. This narrative holds eerie relevance today. Easter Island stands as a microcosm of humanity's broader challenges, balancing ambition with ecology, tradition with adaptation. The moai's silent gaze seems to ask, what monuments are we building today, and what price will future generations pay for them? As we turn to other isolated cultures, from the megalith builders of Nan Madol to the cliff dwellers of Mesa Verde, the same question echoes across the centuries. How do civilizations navigate the thin line between grandeur and survival? The stones may not speak, but their lessons are clearer than ever. High on the walls of Hatha's temple at Dendera, a peculiar relief has sparked debates that blur the line between archaeology and science fiction. Etched into the stone nearly 2,000 years ago, the so-called Dendera light depicts what appears to be a giant bulbous object, a snake coiled inside an elongated vessel, supported by a pillar-like stand with wires or tendrils trailing downward. To modern eyes, it bears an uncanny resemblance to a Crookes tube, an early electrical light bulb. Could this be evidence that ancient Egyptians harnessed electricity, or are we projecting our own technological worldview onto their sacred symbolism? The light bulb interpretation hinges on striking visual parallels. The serpent inside the vessel mirrors the filament in a vacuum tube, while the pillar resembles an insulating base. The trailing lines could symbolize cables, and nearby figures appear to hold the object aloft like technicians. Proponents point to other anomalies, the absence of soot in certain temple chambers where torches would have blackened ceilings, or the Baghdad Battery's potential to power simple lighting. Some even suggest the reliefs show priests performing rituals with glowing devices, interpreting the snake as an electric discharge. Yet mainstream Egyptologists offer a more celestial explanation. The relief sits within a temple dedicated to Hathor, goddess of the sky, and the bulb likely represents a lotus flower, a symbol of creation emerging from the primordial waters. The serpent is the sun god Ra's nightly form, traveling through the underworld before rebirth at dawn. The cables may be stylized lotus stems or divine energy flowing between deities. Hieroglyphs nearby describe cosmic cycles, not technological manuals. This wasn't an engineering diagram but a spiritual metaphor woven into the temple's broader narrative of death and renewal. What makes the Dendera relief fascinating isn't just its ambiguity, it's how it reflects our own era's obsessions. The light bulb theory gained traction in the mid-20th century when electricity dominated human progress. Earlier visitors to the temple saw the same carvings and never mentioned technology. They recognized religious iconography. This clash of interpretations reveals less about ancient Egypt than about our desire to find mirrors of our achievements in the past, to believe that lost civilizations held secrets we've only recently rediscovered. Still, the question lingers: how much did the ancient Egyptians truly understand? Their precision in astronomy, medicine, and engineering often bordered on the supernatural. The Edwin Smith Papyrus details surgical techniques far ahead of their time. The alignment of the Great Pyramid with true north suggests knowledge we can't fully explain. Perhaps Dendera's light wasn't literal, but part of a deeper wisdom, a way of encoding natural principles in myth and stone, waiting for future generations to decipher. After all, the line between sacred geometry and applied science might have been thinner in their world than in ours. As we step back from the temple walls, we're left with a humbling thought. Sometimes the most advanced knowledge isn't about manipulating the physical world, but understanding the unseen forces that shape it. Whether Dendera depicts a light bulb or a lotus, it reminds us that ancient civilizations saw the universe through lenses we're still learning to polish. And if their symbols can spark debate centuries later, maybe that was the real power they sought to harness: not electricity, but eternity. Beneath the turquoise waves off Japan's Yonaguni Island, a massive terraced structure emerges from the ocean floor like a sunken fortress, its flat plains, sharp angles, and stair-like steps defying easy explanation. Discovered in 1986 by a diver searching for hammerhead shark habitats, the Yonaguni monument stretches over 150 meters long, rising 25 meters from the seabed. Its most striking feature is the monument face, a sheer vertical wall with what appears to be carved reliefs resembling human faces, alongside platforms and what some claim are ceremonial altars. The debate rages: is this a natural geological formation shaped by currents and tectonic shifts, or the remnants of a lost civilization swallowed by rising seas thousands of years ago? Geologists point to the area's active fault lines and sandstone's tendency to fracture along straight planes, creating the illusion of human craftsmanship. They note similar formations elsewhere in the Pacific, where wave action carves unintentional staircases and terraces. Yet the monument's symmetry gives pause. Its two nearly identical round holes, each 2 meters wide, aligned perfectly on a central platform, and its roadway of flat stones connecting sections with unnerving regularity. Marine archaeologist Masaki Kimura, who has studied the site for decades, argues these features are unmistakably man-made, suggesting the structure resembles ancient Okinawan castles like Nakagusuku, built with similar megalithic techniques. The timeline adds another layer of intrigue. If human-made, the monument would have been constructed when sea levels were significantly lower, likely over 10,000 years ago, during the last ice age. This places it in the realm of hypothetical lost Pacific civilizations, like the mythical continent of Mu or the seafaring Jomon culture of prehistoric Japan, known for their advanced pottery and coastal settlements. Local legends speak of a sunken city called Ner-i-Kanai, a paradisiacal land beyond the sea, fueling speculation that Yonaguni could be its physical remnant. Complicating the mystery are nearby underwater discoveries. Just 40 kilometers west, divers found what appear to be stone tools and a massive, circular depression dubbed the Turtle Stone, its edges too precise for most natural explanations. Further afield, submerged structures near Taiwan and Indonesia's Banda Sea hint at a network of ancient coastal sites now beneath the waves. Could these fragments point to a forgotten maritime culture that thrived before rising oceans erased their footprint? What makes Yonaguni so compelling is how it straddles the line between nature and human intervention. Unlike clearly artificial ruins like Alexandria's sunken city, this monument exists in a gray area, its features just ambiguous enough to keep debate alive. As sonar mapping and underwater drones reveal more of our planet's submerged secrets, from Cuba's underwater city to India's Gulf of Combat ruins, the question grows louder: how many other ancient shorelines now lie drowned, their builders' stories lost to the tides? The ocean, it seems, still holds its cards close, but each new discovery chips away at the depths of our collective amnesia. In the dim recesses of Sweden's National Library lies a book so massive it's said to have required the skins of 160 donkeys to create, the Codex Gigas, or Giant Book. Weighing in at 75 kilograms and stretching nearly a meter tall, this medieval behemoth isn't just notable for its size, but for the chilling legend clinging to its vellum pages. According to 13th century lore, a disgraced monk, condemned to be walled alive for breaking his vows, struck a desperate bargain. He'd produce a complete copy of the Bible in a single night or face his grim fate. As midnight approached and the task proved impossible, he supposedly called upon the devil for help. The result, a manuscript penned in inhumanly perfect script, its contents far stranger than any ordinary Bible, including a full-page portrait of Satan himself, grinning from the shadows of its folios. Flipping through the Codex Gigas is like stepping into a medieval mindscape where sacred and profane collide. Alongside the complete Latin Vulgate Bible sits a trove of esoteric knowledge, medical treatises, spells for exorcism, even a calendar for predicting feast days and eclipses. But the most unsettling section is the Devil's Prayer, a cryptic incantation scribbled in red ink, its meaning still debated by scholars. The infamous devil portrait, occupying an entire page, shows the figure in lurid green with clawed hands and twin tongues, yet framed by an archway that mirrors depictions of heavenly gates. Was this meant as a warning, a theological puzzle, or something more sinister? Modern analysis adds layers to the mystery. Paleographers note the entire text appears to be the work of a single scribe, written in a consistent hand without signs of fatigue, a feat that would typically take 5 years of non-stop labor, not one desperate night. The ink, made from crushed insect gallnuts, shows no variation in composition, suggesting an impossibly steady supply. And then there's the eerie absence of corrections. Unlike other medieval manuscripts, the Codex Gigas contains almost no errors, as if transcribed by an unerring, perhaps supernatural hand. Theories attempting to explain the Codex range from the pragmatic to the fantastical. Some historians propose it was a collaborative effort by an entire monastery, its uniformity achieved through rigorous training. Others suggest the devil legend was a marketing ploy. Medieval booksellers' new scandal boosted a tome's value, but traces of erased text beneath certain passages hint at a darker possibility, that the manuscript was altered at some point, its original purpose deliberately obscured. The Codex Gigas isn't alone in its aura of the uncanny. From the cursed Necronomicon of Lovecraftian myth to the real-life Voinish manuscript, history is littered with texts that seem to guard their secrets too well. Perhaps these books tap into a primal fear that words, once written, can take on lives of their own, carrying whispers of forgotten pacts or knowledge too dangerous to preserve. As we turn the page to other enigmatic writings, one question lingers. Are some books meant to be read, or are they warnings, sealed in ink and bound in leather, waiting for the curious to risk opening them? Scattered across the highlands of northern Laos, the Plain of Jars presents a landscape that feels both haunting and surreal. Thousands of ancient stone vessels, some as tall as a person, others small enough to cradle in your arms, dotting the grassy plateaus in clusters that stretch for miles. Carved from sandstone, granite, and even coral, these jars weigh up to several tons each, their surfaces weathered smooth by centuries of wind and rain. Many stand upright, their open mouths gaping toward the sky, while others lie toppled or broken, as if some colossal force had swept through and disturbed their silent vigil. Who placed them here, and what purpose did they serve? Theories about the jars' origins span the practical to the mystical. Archaeologists have uncovered human remains, teeth, and bone fragments inside some, suggesting they functioned as burial urns, a practice echoed in other Southeast Asian cultures. But not all jars contain bones. Some hold glass beads, iron tools, or ceramic shards, hinting at a more complex funerary ritual where objects accompanied the dead into the afterlife. Then there's the food storage hypothesis. Local legends speak of a race of giants who brewed rice wine in these vessels for victory feasts, a story that aligns with discoveries of fermented residue in a few jars. Could they have been communal storage silos safeguarding grain or water during droughts? The mystery deepens when you consider the logistics. These jars weren't quarried locally. Some were hauled from sites over 10 kilometers away, a staggering feat for a society without wheels or draft animals. Their distribution is equally puzzling. Clusters range from a handful to hundreds, often arranged in patterns that mirror celestial alignments or follow natural ridges. One site, Jar Site 1, features a solitary vessel perched on a hillock, its isolation suggesting it held special significance, perhaps an altar or marker for travelers. Adding to the enigma are the stone discs found nearby, some carved with enigmatic symbols resembling human figures or animals. These could be lids, sealing the jar's contents from the elements, or they might be something more, like tombstones or ritual tablets. The absence of written records from the Iron Age culture that created the jars leaves us grasping at fragments, piecing together clues from burial practices, tool marks, and the jar's own weathered surfaces. What makes the Plain of Jars especially poignant is its duality, a site of both death and life. During the Vietnam War, the area became a battleground, scarred by bombs that left craters alongside the ancient jars. Today, clearance teams work carefully to remove unexploded ordnance, uncovering new jars in the process. It's a stark reminder that these relics have witnessed centuries of human struggle and resilience, their silent presence a testament to cultures that flourished and faded long before our time. Southeast Asia's riddles don't end here. From Cambodia's spiral temples to Indonesia's pyramid-like Gunung Padang, the region whispers of civilizations that mastered stone, water, and sky in ways we're only beginning to comprehend. Each discovery peels back another layer, revealing not just how these people lived, but how they sought to make meaning of the world around them. The jars, like so many ancient artifacts, aren't just containers, they're questions carved in stone, waiting for us to listen. High in the remote Bayan Karaula Mountains bordering China and Tibet, a discovery in 1938 sparked one of archaeology's most enduring controversies, the Dropa stones. According to accounts by Chinese archaeologist Kai Pu-te, workers excavating a network of caves stumbled upon rows of ancient graves containing unusually small skeletons, their large, sunken eye sockets hinting at an otherworldly appearance. But the real mystery lay beside the remains, hundreds of flat stone discs, each roughly 12 inches in diameter, with a hole at the center and spiral grooves radiating outward like vinyl records. The grooves, upon closer inspection, were said to contain microscopic hieroglyphs, a written record purportedly telling the story of a crashed spacecraft and its stranded alien occupants, the Dropa, who couldn't repair their vessel and eventually integrated with local tribes. The tale only grew stranger when Russian linguist Dr. Tsum Nui allegedly translated the inscriptions in 1962, describing a harrowing account of the Dropa people fleeing their dying planet, only to be hunted and misunderstood by the humans they encountered. The stones supposedly ended with a plea. The Dropa came down from the clouds in their aircraft. Our men, women, and children hid in the caves 10 times before sunrise. When at last they understood the sign language of the Dropa, they saw these newcomers were peaceful. If true, these discs would rewrite human history as we know it. But here's the catch: nearly every piece of this story dissolves under scrutiny. No credible institution has ever examined the stones or the skeletal remains. Kai Pu-te's original expedition records vanished during China's political upheavals in the mid-20th century. Dr. Tsum Nui's name doesn't appear in any academic registries, and the supposed translations were published in an obscure Russian newsletter, not a peer-reviewed journal. Even the discs themselves have never been displayed or studied by mainstream archaeologists. Skeptics argue the entire story is an elaborate hoax, possibly cobbled together from misinterpreted local folklore about the Dropa people, a real but entirely human ethnic group known for their small stature. Yet the legend persists, fueled by tantalizing details. Some researchers point to the Bayan Ha mountain region's long history of UFO sightings and the unusual Dropa name's similarity to Tibetan words for lonely wanderers. Others note that similar grooved stone discs do exist in Chinese museums, though they're identified as ceremonial artifacts from the Neolithic Liangzhu culture, with no connection to alien visitors. The grooves on these genuine artifacts served decorative or symbolic purposes, not as encoded messages. What makes the Dropa stones so compelling isn't their dubious authenticity, but what they reveal about how mythology and history intertwine. Ancient astronaut theories often emerge where archaeology meets ambiguity, where gaps in the record let imagination rush in. From the Vimanas of Hindu texts to the Dogon tribe's alleged knowledge of Sirius B, stories of otherworldly contact flourish when cultures collide and oral traditions blur. The Dropa legend taps into a universal human question: are we alone, or have we always been part of something far larger? Perhaps the truth lies not in the stones themselves, but in why we want them to be real. They represent a mirror held up to our own curiosity, our longing for connection across time and space. In the end, the Dropa stones may be less about ancient aliens and more about the stories we tell to make sense of the unknown. And isn't that, after all, what mythology has always done: transform the unexplainable into narratives that comfort, challenge, or inspire? As we turn to the next mystery, we're left wondering, how many other artifacts around the world are waiting to be demystified, and how many will forever hover between fact and legend? In the icy depths of the Baltic Sea, a sonar image captured in 2011 by Swedish treasure hunters sent shockwaves through the scientific community. A 60-meter-wide circular object resting on the seabed, its contours eerily reminiscent of the Millennium Falcon from Star Wars. The so-called Baltic Sea anomaly sits 300 feet below the surface, with strange, angular features that defy typical geological formations. A long, straight runway-like extension stretches from its base, while what appear to be stair-like structures climb its sides. Even stranger, sonar readings suggested the object disrupted electrical equipment in its vicinity, causing cameras and satellite phones to malfunction when divers approached. Was this a bizarre glacial deposit, a sunken Nazi weapon from World War II, or something far more otherworldly? Geologists initially dismissed the anomaly as a glacial erratic, a boulder dragged and shaped by ancient ice sheets. Yet the structure's symmetry and sharp edges challenge this explanation. Natural formations rarely exhibit such precise right angles or uniform curves. Others proposed it might be a submerged Stone Age structure, similar to underwater megaliths found off India or Japan, but the most sensational theory points to extraterrestrial origins. UFO enthusiasts highlight its uncanny resemblance to classic flying saucer designs, while the electrical disturbances evoke tropes of alien technology interfering with human electronics. The Nazi weapon hypothesis adds another layer of intrigue. During World War II, the Baltic was a testing ground for German experimental weapons, including stealth submarines and underwater bases. Could this be a lost prototype or secret installation, its purpose erased from history? Divers retrieved samples of the structure's material, which some claimed contained metals not naturally occurring on the seabed, though these findings remain controversial and unpublished in peer-reviewed studies. What makes the Baltic Sea anomaly so compelling isn't just its mysterious shape. It's the reminder that Earth's oceans remain one of our planet's last uncharted frontiers. Less than 20% of the seabed has been mapped in detail, leaving vast regions ripe for discovery. From potential hydrothermal vent cities to submerged ruins of forgotten civilizations, the deep blue holds secrets we've only begun to glimpse. If a single sonar ping can spark debates spanning geology, history, and ufology, what else might be lurking in the darkness, waiting for the right explorer to stumble upon it? As technology advances and deep-sea probes venture further, we may find that some of humanity's greatest mysteries aren't in the stars but beneath the waves. The Shroud of Turin is perhaps the most scrutinized piece of fabric in human history, a 14-foot-long linen cloth, faintly imprinted with the haunting image of a bearded man bearing wounds consistent with crucifixion. For centuries, believers have revered it as the burial shroud of Jesus Christ, while skeptics dismiss it as an elaborate medieval forgery. The controversy hinges on two inseparable questions. How was the image created, and could it truly date back to the 1st century? Scientific analysis has only deepened the mystery. In 1988, radiocarbon dating tests conducted by 3 independent labs placed the shroud's origin between 1260 and 1390 CE, a timeline aligning with the first recorded appearance of the cloth in 14th century France. But critics quickly pointed out flaws. The tested sample came from a mended corner, potentially contaminated by centuries of handling and fire damage. Later studies revealed chemical signatures inconsistent with medieval pigments, including traces of ancient pollen from plants native to the Near East. Even more baffling, the image itself isn't painted, it's a superficial discoloration of the linen fibers, less than a micrometer deep, with no signs of brushstrokes or dyes. The shroud's eerie photographic qualities add another layer. When first photographed in 1898, the negative revealed startling detail, a positive image far clearer than the faint markings visible to the naked eye. This discovery sparked theories ranging from a primitive form of radiation to a miraculous burst of energy during resurrection. modern researchers have attempted to replicate the shroud's unique properties using ultraviolet light, plasma discharges, and even advanced bas-relief techniques. Yet no method perfectly reproduces its three-dimensional encoding and lack of directional brushwork. Religious artifacts like the Shroud of Turin occupy a unique space where faith and science intersect, often uneasily. From the Sudarium of Oviedo, a blood-stained cloth said to have covered Christ's face, to the tilma of Guadeloupe with its inexplicably preserved pigments, these objects challenge our understanding of history and material science. Whether divine or ingeniously crafted, the shroud's enduring power lies in its ability to provoke wonder, debate, and an unshakable question: what if? As we turn to the next mystery, we're reminded that some enigmas refuse to be neatly solved, standing instead as silent witnesses to the limits of our knowledge. Among the fragile, ancient texts of the Dead Sea Scrolls, one stands apart not for its religious revelations, but for its tantalizing promise of unimaginable wealth. The Copper Scroll, discovered in 1952 near the ruins of Qumran, isn't inscribed on parchment like its counterparts. Instead, its cryptic message is etched into thin sheets of copper, as if the authors wanted these words to endure far beyond the reach of time. Unlike the spiritual texts found alongside it, this scroll reads like a treasure map, listing 64 locations where staggering quantities of gold, silver, and precious temple artifacts were supposedly hidden. The sums are jaw-dropping: over 4,600 talents of silver, nearly 1,300 talents of gold, and hundreds of other valuables enough to rival the treasuries of ancient empires. Yet despite decades of searching, not a single hoard has been recovered. Why has this ancient treasure map proven so impossible to decipher? Part of the challenge lies in the scroll's deliberate obscurity. The directions are maddeningly vague, referencing landmarks that have either vanished or were never clearly identified to begin with. One passage mentions a ruin in the valley of Achor, while another describes a cave in the cliff facing north. These clues might have been crystal clear to the scroll's original audience 2,000 years ago, but today they're as inscrutable as a riddle wrapped in an enigma. Compounding the mystery, some locations reference structures like Solomon's Canal, a waterway that may have dried up centuries ago or could be a symbolic name lost to history. Even the measurements used, cubits, stadia, and other ancient units, add layers of confusion, as their exact lengths varied across cultures and eras. Then there's the question of authenticity. Could the Copper Scroll be an elaborate hoax, or perhaps a symbolic inventory rather than a literal guide? Some scholars argue the quantities listed are implausibly large, enough gold to destabilize the economy of the ancient world. Others propose the treasure wasn't physical wealth at all, but coded references to spiritual knowledge or sacred texts hidden during times of persecution. Yet the scroll's material suggests otherwise. Copper was expensive and labor-intensive to work with, reserved for messages meant to last. Why go to such lengths for a metaphor? Modern technology has only deepened the intrigue. Multispectral imaging and advanced translation techniques have revealed subtle markings and corrections in the text, hinting that the scroll was carefully edited, perhaps to obscure the true locations from enemies. Archaeologists armed with ground-penetrating radar and LiDAR have combed the Judean desert, uncovering caves and tunnels that match some descriptions, but so far, no treasure. Closest breakthrough came in the 1960s, when an expedition found a small bronze vessel in a cave near the Dead Sea, sparking fleeting hope until further searches turned up empty. What makes the Copper Scroll uniquely compelling is what it represents: a tangible link between myth and reality. Most ancient treasures exist only in legends or fragmentary accounts, but here's a physical artifact, worn by time yet still whispering of riches waiting beneath the dust. Its existence fuels larger questions. How many other caches from crumbling temples or fleeing armies still lie hidden? From the lost gold of the Visigoths to the fabled mines of King Solomon, history is littered with stories of wealth swallowed by the earth. The copper scroll stands as a reminder that some secrets aren't lost, they're just waiting for the right explorer, the right clue, or the right moment to reveal themselves. And who knows, the next great discovery might be buried in plain sight, hidden in the words of an ancient map we've been reading all wrong. Rising abruptly from the red clay of rural Georgia, the enigmatic Georgia Guidestone stood for over 40 years as one of modernity's strangest monuments, a 20-foot, then slate-gray granite monolith etched with cryptic directives for a post-apocalyptic world. Erected in 1980 under circumstances shrouded in secrecy, its 6 massive slabs bore 10 commandments in 8 languages, from English to Swahili, with messages like "Maintain humanity under 500 million in perpetual balance with nature" and "Guide reproduction wisely, improving fitness and diversity." The stones functioned as both a celestial clock, aligned with solstices and equinoxes, and what many interpreted as a blueprint for survival after collapse. Then, in 2022, an explosion shattered one panel, and the rest were demolished by authorities days later, fueling conspiracy theories that the Guidestones were too dangerous to remain standing. Who commissioned this eerie structure, and was its message a warning, a prophecy, or something darker? The mystery begins with the monument's origin story. A man using the pseudonym R.C. Christian claimed to represent a small group of Americans who wanted to share guidance for future generations. Working through a local banker and granite company, Christian paid for the project in cash, vanished after its completion, and left no paper trail. Speculation about his identity ranges from eccentric millionaires to secret societies like the Rosicrucians, while some theorists link the stones to Cold War-era survivalist movements or even early climate change activism. The choice of languages offers clues. The inclusion of Babylonian cuneiform alongside modern tongues suggests the creators saw their message as timeless, transcending contemporary geopolitics. What made the Guidestones uniquely unsettling was their tone. Unlike ancient monuments celebrating gods or kings, these directives read like clinical instructions for rebuilding civilization: rule, passion, faith, tradition, and all things with tempered reason. The call for a global population under 500 million, a 93% reduction from today's numbers, sparked accusations of elitism or even genocide, while references to balancing rights with social duties echoed controversial utopian ideologies. Yet supporters argued the stones merely echoed environmentalists' warnings about overpopulation and resource depletion, framed in stark terms meant to provoke thought. The monument's violent end only amplified its mystique. After partial destruction by explosives, an act never claimed by any group, government crews dismantled the remaining slabs, citing safety concerns. Skeptics questioned the urgency, noting the structure had stood untouched for decades. Was it fear of the Guidestones becoming a rallying point for extremists? Or did the powers that be simply find its truths too uncomfortable? The rubble was hauled away, but fragments circulated on the black market, turning physical pieces of the enigma into collectors' items. This modern mystery forces us to confront an uncomfortable question. What legacies are we creating for the far future? From nuclear waste warning symbols designed to terrify civilizations 10,000 years hence to the Voyager golden records hurtling through space, humanity grapples with how to communicate across millennia. The Guidestones' mix of pragmatism and ambiguity may have been flawed, but they dared to ask what principles might endure when our era is just dust. As we ponder other time capsules, whether Norway's Arctic Seed Vault or the cryptic murals of Colorado's Cheyenne Mountain, we're left wondering, will our messages be decoded as wisdom or warnings, or simply fade into the silence of forgotten stone? Deep in the heart of Bosnia, just outside the quiet town of Visoko, a series of geometrically perfect hills have ignited one of archaeology's most heated modern debates. Meet the so-called Bosnian pyramids, massive, symmetrical formations that amateur archaeologist Semir Osmanagic claims are not natural landforms, but the remnants of ancient pyramids dating back over 12,000 years. According to Osmanagic and his team, these structures rival Egypt's pyramids in size, with the largest, the Pyramid of the Sun, allegedly standing 220 meters tall. But here's where the controversy erupts. Mainstream archaeologists almost universally dismiss these claims, labeling the pyramids as nothing more than oddly shaped natural hills. So why does this site continue to captivate explorers and conspiracy theorists alike? Osmanagic's evidence hinges on several striking observations. The hill's triangular faces align almost perfectly with the cardinal directions north, south, east, and west, a feature seen in pyramids worldwide. Excavations have uncovered layers of man-made concrete-like blocks beneath the soil, along with mysterious underground tunnels snaking beneath the structures. Thermal imaging suggests these tunnels form intricate networks, while some researchers claim to have detected anomalous energy fields or frequencies emanating from the site. But skeptics counter that the blocks are simply natural sandstone and conglomerate formations common to the region, and the tunnels are medieval mines or natural karst passages. What makes this debate so polarizing is the clash between traditional archaeology and alternative history. Mainstream scholars point out that no artifacts, inscriptions, or cultural context link the hills to any known pyramid-building civilization in Europe. The timeline Osmanagic proposes, 12,000 years, would place these structures in the pre-agricultural era, a time when humans were thought to be nomadic hunter-gatherers incapable of such large-scale projects. Yet supporters argue that conventional archaeology is too rigid, unwilling to reconsider timelines or acknowledge advanced lost civilizations. They point to similar debates over sites like Göbekli Tepe, which also challenged assumptions about prehistoric capabilities before being widely accepted. The Bosnian pyramids also tap into a broader pattern, pyramid-like structures appearing in seemingly unrelated cultures across the globe. From the stepped pyramids of Mesoamerica to China's flat-topped mounds, these geometric forms emerge again and again, separated by oceans and millennia. Could this be evidence of a shared architectural instinct, or something more controversial, a forgotten global connection between ancient peoples? Even if Visoko's hills are natural, their uncanny resemblance to pyramids keeps the question alive. Perhaps the real mystery here isn't just about stones and soil, but how we interpret the past. The Bosnian pyramids force us to confront how knowledge is validated, who decides what's possible, and what happens when new discoveries don't fit the established narrative. Whether these hills are man-made marvels or quirks of geology, they've undeniably sparked a conversation about the limits of our understanding, and in that sense, they've already served a purpose, reminding us that history is never as settled as it seems. In the remote cliffs of Mali, the Dogon people have preserved knowledge that shouldn't have been possible, an understanding of the cosmos far beyond what the naked eye could reveal. For centuries, their oral traditions spoke of a tiny, dense companion star orbiting Sirius, the brightest star in Earth's night sky. They called it Po-Tolo, describing it as made of a metal heavier than iron, completing an elliptical orbit every 50 years. The problem, Sirius B, the white dwarf star the Dogon seemed to describe, wasn't discovered by Western astronomers until 1862, and its incredible density wasn't confirmed until the 20th century. So how could an isolated African tribe without telescopes or written records know about a star invisible to human eyes? The debate over the Dogon's Sirius knowledge splits scholars into two camps. Some point to cultural contamination, the idea that outside visitors, perhaps European missionaries or ethnographers, inadvertently introduced astronomical concepts to the Dogon in the late 19th or early 20th century. French anthropologist Marcel Grioul, who first documented the Dogon star lore in the 1930s, might have unwittingly influenced their narratives during his research. Skeptics note that similar, impossible knowledge claims among indigenous groups often dissolve under scrutiny, revealing overlooked contact with modern science. But the other camp sees something far more profound. Ancient astronaut theorists argue the Dogon inherited their wisdom from extraterrestrial visitors, pointing to their creation myths, which describe amphibious beings called Nommo arriving from the sky in a spinning arc. These entities, they claim, gifted the Dogon with advanced astronomy. Others propose a middle ground, that the Dogon's ancestors might have been part of a forgotten network of African civilizations with sophisticated astronomical traditions, later fragmented by time and colonization. After all, the ancient Egyptians revered Sirius as the star of Isis, and some scholars suggest their calendar might have been calibrated to its movements. Could fragments of this knowledge have survived in oral traditions, passed down through generations? What makes the Dogon's case so compelling isn't just the accuracy of their Sirius B description, it's the broader challenge they pose to history's timeline. Indigenous knowledge systems, from Polynesian star navigation to Aboriginal Australian geology, often encode scientific insights Western science took centuries to rediscover. The Dogon remind us that human curiosity and ingenuity aren't confined to laboratories or observatories. They flourish in every culture, in every corner of the globe. The real mystery here isn't just how the Dogon knew, it's what other truths might be woven into the oral histories, art, and rituals of peoples written off as primitive. If a tribe in Mali could preserve the secrets of a star for generations, what else might we be missing simply because we haven't learned to listen in the right ways? As we turn to the next enigma, we're left wondering how many other chapters of human knowledge remain hidden, not in ruins or manuscripts, but in the living memories of those who have carried them forward against all odds. Tucked away in the desolate mountains of China's Qinghai province, the Bagong pipes present a geological riddle wrapped in layers of speculation. Discovered embedded within Mount Bagong, these mysterious hollow metal tubes protrude from solid rock, some stretching into nearby caves while others plunge deep into the earth. Ranging from needle-thin to nearly 16 inches in diameter, their rust-colored surfaces bear the marks of extreme age, yet their precise symmetry and arrangement defy easy explanation. Carbon dating suggests these structures could be upwards of 150,000 years old, a timeline that predates known human metallurgy by eons. So what are we looking at? The twisted remnants of an ancient industrial site, the fossilized veins of a long-extinct organism, or something far more perplexing? Geologists lean toward natural explanations, proposing the pipes could be the result of a rare phenomenon called fulgurate formation, where lightning strikes fuse sand and minerals into tubular structures. Others point to dendritic iron deposits, where mineral-rich water seeping through rock leaves behind pipe-like formations over millennia. But skeptics of these theories highlight the pipe's high silicon dioxide and calcium oxide content, materials more consistent with smelting byproducts than natural mineral accretions. Even more puzzling, some pipes align in near-perfect patterns, with junctions that resemble modern plumbing systems. Local legends add fuel to the fire, speaking of a vanished civilization that built towering structures before being wiped away by a cataclysm. Could these pipes be the last surviving fragments of their technology? The mystery deepens when you consider the context. Nearby, Lake Tossan harbors similar pipes beneath its waters, some arranged in deliberate-looking geometric patterns. In the early 2000s, researchers from a state-run smelting company reportedly analyzed samples, concluding the pipes contained an unusual percentage of unidentifiable material. While these findings remain unverified, they've sparked theories ranging from prehistoric blast furnaces to even more speculative ideas like remnants of an alien outpost or a lost high-tech culture. The Chinese government's designation of the area as a tourist curiosity rather than an archaeological site has only amplified suspicions that there's more to this story than official channels let on. What makes the Bagong pipes so compelling isn't just their age or composition, it's the way they challenge our assumptions about humanity's technological timeline. If these structures are artificial, they suggest a forgotten chapter where advanced engineering existed long before the rise of Sumer or Egypt. But even if they're natural, their eerily precise forms remind us how little we understand Earth's capacity to mimic human craftsmanship. From the metallic spheres of South Africa's Klerksdorp to the fused glass ruins of India's Ramappa Temple, our planet scatters clues that blur the line between geology and archaeology. Perhaps the truth lies somewhere in between, a reminder that nature and human ingenuity can conspire to create wonders that defy categorization. As the wind howls through these hollow tubes, their resonance sounds less like an answer and more like an invitation to look closer, dig deeper, and question everything we think we know about the past. Because if a single mountain in China can hide such enigmas, what other silent witnesses might be waiting beneath our feet, their stories rusting quietly in the dark? While the Nazca Lines of Peru captivate the world's imagination, Bolivia hides its own sprawling masterpiece, one that dwarfs its famous neighbor in sheer scale. The Saxehuaman Lines, etched across the high-altitude plains near the snow-capped Nevado Saxehuaman volcano, form an astonishing web of over 16,000 perfectly straight paths crisscrossing the Altiplano. These ancient lines stretch across an area larger than 15,000 football fields, some running flawlessly straight for nearly 20 kilometers across rugged terrain. Unlike the figurative animal glyphs of Nazca, these markings are geometric, a vast network of intersecting lines, triangles, and trapezoids that transform the landscape into what looks like a colossal celestial map. But here's the real mystery: who designed this intricate system, and why would a culture without aerial perspective invest such labor into markings best appreciated from the sky? The precision of the Saxehuaman Lines defies logic. Created by scraping away the dark surface oxidation to reveal lighter soil beneath, these paths maintain razor-straight trajectories despite the region's uneven topography. Modern engineers using GPS technology struggle to replicate such accuracy over long distances, yet these lines were crafted centuries before the Inca Empire rose to power. Local Aymara legends speak of them as paths of the gods, woven by ancestral spirits to guide travelers between sacred peaks. Archaeologists propose more practical theories. Perhaps they were pilgrimage routes connecting ceremonial centers, or massive astronomical sightlines tracking solstice sunrises. Some researchers even suggest they functioned as a monumental irrigation grid, channeling meltwater from the Andes across the arid plains. Yet none of these explanations fully account for the lines' mind-boggling scale or their eerie uniformity. What makes the Saxehuaman Lines uniquely baffling is their invisibility at ground level. Walking among them, you'd see only disjointed fragments of cleared earth. No grand pattern emerges until you ascend hundreds of feet into the thin Andean air. This raises a provocative question. How did the builders maintain alignment over such vast distances without modern surveying tools? One theory points to simple but ingenious methods, staking out paths using aligned bonfires or reflective stones under moonlight, then refining them over generations. Another possibility, the lines weren't meant to be seen as a whole by human eyes at all. Their true audience might have been celestial beings, ancestors, or deities, a permanent prayer etched into the earth itself, visible only from the heavens. The Saxehuaman lines challenge our assumptions about ancient cultures' relationship with landscape. While we marvel at skyscrapers and satellites, these pre-industrial people reshaped an entire region with nothing but coordinated labor and an intimate understanding of their environment. Their achievement whispers of a sophistication we're only beginning to decode, one where geometry, spirituality, and survival intertwined seamlessly. As modern technology reveals more of these hidden designs, from newly discovered lines in Kazakhstan to the sprawling geoglyphs of the Amazon, we're forced to reconsider not just how these cultures worked, but how they saw their place in the cosmos. Perhaps the greatest lesson of the Saxehuaman lines isn't about how they were made, but why they endure, as a testament to humanity's timeless urge to leave marks on the world that say, unmistakably, we were here. Buried in a creek bed near London, Texas in 1936, a curious discovery sent shockwaves through the scientific community: a hammer, its wooden handle partially fossilized, encased in solid rock dating back over 100 million years. This so-called London hammer looks like any early 20th century tool at first glance, a 6-inch iron head with a tapered end, fused to a handle that had turned to coal over time. But here's what makes it impossible, or at least wildly improbable. The rock surrounding it, analyzed by geologists, belongs to the Cretaceous period, an era when dinosaurs still roamed the earth. How could a clearly man-made object end up sealed inside stone that predates human existence by millions of years? The debate over the hammer splits experts into two camps. Skeptics argue it's a classic case of out-of-place artifact misinterpretation, a term for objects that seem to defy historical timelines but often have simpler explanations. They propose the hammer was dropped or discarded in relatively recent times, only to become enveloped by mineral deposits that hardened around it, creating the illusion of ancient origin. Similar formations occur near mineral springs, where rapid calcification can encase objects in rock-like layers within decades. But believers counter with compelling details. The hammer's handle underwent a process called coalification, typically requiring millions of years of pressure, and the iron head shows puzzling purity, lacking the sulfur content found in modern iron tools. If it's a hoax or accident, why does the metallurgy defy expectations? Then there's the geological context. The rock encasing the hammer isn't just old, it's part of a well-documented Cretaceous formation, studied extensively for its fossil content. No cracks or fissures suggest the hammer was inserted later. The stone appears to have formed around the tool. This has led to wilder theories, including the idea of a lost human civilization, advanced enough to forge metal tools millions of years before recorded history. Others speculate about time travelers or even extraterrestrial visitors leaving behind traces of their presence. While these ideas stretch credibility, they highlight a deeper question. When faced with an artifact that defies all conventional timelines, how far are we willing to bend our understanding of history? What makes the London hammer so fascinating isn't just its paradoxical existence, it's what it reveals about the limits of human knowledge. Science thrives on categorization, placing objects neatly within established timelines. But anomalies like this hammer force us to confront the uncomfortable truth that some discoveries resist easy classification. They linger in the gray area between mistake and miracle, challenging us to either dismiss them outright or reconsider everything we think we know. Perhaps the real lesson lies not in proving whether the hammer is ancient or modern, but in recognizing how many other artifacts might be waiting to append our assumptions. From the Antikythera Mechanism to the Baghdad Battery, history is littered with objects that seemed impossible until they weren't. The London hammer stands as a reminder that the past is far stranger than we imagine, and sometimes the most mundane objects can hold the most extraordinary secrets. Deep in the heart of Romania, a collection of small clay tablets unearthed near the village of Tartaria has sparked one of archaeology's most heated debates. These unassuming artifacts, etched with strange symbols resembling animals, plants, and abstract shapes, might just hold the key to rewriting the history of human communication. Known as the Tartaria tablets, they date back to around 5,300 BCE, centuries older than the earliest confirmed writing systems of Mesopotamia. If these markings truly represent a form of writing, they could append everything we thought we knew about when and where literacy began. The symbols themselves are tantalizingly complex. Some resemble the later Sumerian cuneiform, while others echo motifs found in Neolithic art across Europe. One tablet even shows a horned animal flanked by rows of notches, a possible tally or rudimentary calendar. But here's the catch: without a Rosetta Stone to decode them, scholars can't agree whether these are mere decorations, ritual objects, or a full-fledged script. Supporters of the writing theory point to the tablet's deliberate arrangement of symbols in lines, suggesting syntactic structure. Skeptics counter that similar patterns appear in non-linguistic art worldwide, from the cave paintings of Lascaux to the pottery of ancient China. What makes this debate so explosive is the implication. If writing emerged independently in prehistoric Europe long before Mesopotamia's scribes, it challenges the traditional narrative that civilization and all its trappings spread outward from the Fertile Crescent. Could the Danube Valley have been another cradle of innovation, its achievements lost to time? The Vinca culture, which produced these tablets, was already mastering copper smelting and constructing large settlements. The leap to symbolic communication wouldn't be unthinkable, yet without more examples or contextual clues, the tablets remain a riddle wrapped in clay. This mystery forces us to confront a larger question: how many other ancient scripts lie buried, waiting to be recognized? From the undeciphered Rongo-Rongo of Easter Island to the Indus Valley, symbols that still guard their secrets, humanity's first attempts at writing might be far more diverse and far older than we've dared to imagine. Every unread tablet, every uncracked inscription whispers the same challenge. History isn't a single thread, but a tapestry woven from countless lost threads, some of which we're only now beginning to trace. In a dusty Peruvian museum, a collection of stones etched with impossible images has baffled researchers for decades. The Ica stones, named after the region where they were discovered, depict scenes that shouldn't exist: humans interacting with dinosaurs, performing complex surgeries, even studying the cosmos through telescopes. These andesite rocks, some weighing over 50 pounds, bear intricate carvings showing stegosaurs with spines so accurate they match modern paleontological reconstructions, and medical procedures like organ transplants with details no 20th century farmer could have known. The controversy begins with their origin story. In the 1960s, a local farmer named Basilio Asciuga claimed to have found thousands of these stones in caves near Ica, though he later admitted to creating some as forgeries. But here's where the plot thickens: many stones predate Asciuga's confession. with documented appearances in Spanish colonial records as early as the 16th century. Why does this matter? Because if even a fraction of these stones are genuine, they could rewrite human history. The surgical scenes show techniques like cesarean sections and blood transfusions, with anatomical precision that would require knowledge far beyond what's believed possible for ancient Peruvian cultures. Even more startling are the dinosaur depictions, creatures like triceratops and pterodactyls rendered with startling accuracy, decades before modern science reconstructed their full appearances from fossils. Skeptics argue these details could have been copied from 20th century textbooks, but radiocarbon dating on the patina covering some carvings suggests centuries of oxidation, hinting at a much older origin. The debate takes an intriguing turn when you examine the stone's geological context. Andesite is notoriously difficult to carve without modern tools, yet these designs show crisp lines and smooth curves that would challenge even today's artisans. Some stones feature layered carvings where deeper grooves show significantly more weathering, a detail nearly impossible to fake convincingly. Then there's the sheer volume. Over 15,000 stones scattered across private collections and museums worldwide, many with consistent artistic styles despite being discovered decades apart. Could a single farmer really have produced so many elaborate forgeries unnoticed? What lingers after the arguments is a broader question about archaeological authenticity. The Ica stones exist in that gray area where confirmed hoaxes risk overshadowing potentially legitimate anomalies. We've seen this pattern before, from the Piltdown Man fossil fraud that delayed acceptance of genuine hominid discoveries, to the controversy surrounding the Shroud of Turin, where proven fakes make it harder to assess authentic mysteries. Perhaps the most valuable lesson from Ica isn't about dinosaurs or surgery, but about how our eagerness to debunk can sometimes blind us to genuine puzzles waiting beneath layers of skepticism. As we turn from these contested stones to other archaeological enigmas, we're reminded that history's truth often lies not in absolutes, but in the careful balance between doubt and wonder. For every proven forgery, there might be one unexplained artifact that quietly challenges our assumptions if we're willing to look past the noise and see what's really carved in stone. Buried in the sands of ancient Mesopotamia, the Ubaid culture left behind artifacts that defy easy explanation: strange, reptilian-like figurines with elongated heads, slanted almond eyes, and unmistakably lizard-like features. Dating back 7,000 years, these statues depict humanoid figures with scaly skin, clawed hands, and postures that blur the line between human and serpent. Some cradle infants against their chests, while others strike poses that suggest ritualistic significance. Discovered at the archaeological site of Al-Ubaid in modern-day Iraq, these eerie sculptures raise a tantalizing question. Were these merely symbolic representations, or did the Ubaid people believe they shared their world with beings that weren't entirely human? Theories about these figurines span the spectrum of logic and legend. Mainstream archaeologists suggest they could represent deities or mythological creatures, a common motif in early cultures that revered animals as totems or divine messengers. Snakes and reptiles, in particular, held sacred status in many ancient societies, symbolizing rebirth, healing, or even chaos. The Ubaid lizardmen might have been part of a fertility cult, their alien appearance embodying the mysterious forces of creation. Others propose these statues were shamanic avatars, depicting spiritual intermediaries who could shapeshift between human and reptilian forms during rituals. But then there's the more speculative angle. Could these artifacts hint at encounters with something beyond the ordinary? Fringe researchers point to the figurines' uncanny resemblance to modern descriptions of reptilian humanoids, a recurring motif in global folklore, from the Nagas of Hindu myth to the dragon kings of Chinese tradition. What makes the U-Bayed lizardmen especially fascinating is their context. These weren't isolated oddities. They were part of a sophisticated culture that pioneered irrigation, pottery, and early urban planning. The U-Bayed people laid the groundwork for Mesopotamia's later empires, yet they chose to immortalize these otherworldly figures in clay. Were they trying to document something they'd witnessed, or were these expressions of a collective subconscious, a universal human fascination with the boundary between animal and intellect? This isn't the only ancient artifact that blurs the line between human and non-human. From Egypt's jackal-headed Anubis to the feather-clad serpent god Quetzalcoatl in Mesoamerica, cultures across the globe have envisioned hybrid beings with unsettling precision. Could these shared motifs be coincidental, or is there a deeper thread connecting them, a whisper of something ancient, elusive, and perhaps not entirely of this world? The U-Bayed lizardmen don't offer answers, but they invite us to look closer, to question not just what these figures represent, but why the idea of the reptilian other lingers so persistently in humanity's oldest stories. Perhaps the truth lies not in proving whether these statues depict reality or myth, but in recognizing how often the two intertwine. After all, every legend has roots, and every culture leaves behind clues not just about what they feared or worshipped, but what they might have known that we've since forgotten. As we turn to other ancient enigmas, the question lingers: how many more of these echoes are waiting to be unearthed, hidden in plain sight beneath the dust of time? Buried in the mineral-rich deposits of South Africa's Ottosdal region, the so-called Klerksdorp spheres have ignited debates that straddle the line between geology and science fiction. These small, metallic objects, no larger than a tennis ball, are etched with fine grooves that circle their equators like the seams of a modern baseball. Discovered in Precambrian pyrophyllite deposits dating back an astonishing 2.8 billion years, their existence challenges conventional timelines of human or even terrestrial history. If these spheres are indeed artificial, they would predate not just human civilization but multicellular life itself. So are they the handiwork of an impossibly ancient civilization, or does nature have a more mundane explanation? Mainstream geologists argue these spheres are natural concretions, mineral formations that accrete in layers around a central nucleus, much like pearls forming in oysters. The pyrophyllite deposits where they're found are known to undergo extreme pressure and heat, which could explain the sphere's metallic luster and unusual symmetry. The grooves, often cited as proof of artificial carving, might instead be the result of differential erosion, where softer mineral layers wear away faster than harder ones. Similar formations appear worldwide, from the Moqui marbles of Utah to the spherical stones of Costa Rica, all shaped by natural forces over eons. Yet skeptics of this explanation highlight details that resist easy classification. Some Klerksdorp spheres exhibit near-perfect balance, with grooves so precise they appear machined. Others contain alloys and metallic compositions uncommon in natural concretions, sparking speculation about lost high-tech cultures or even extraterrestrial intervention. The most controversial claims come from early researchers who asserted the spheres could rotate on their axes with uncanny smoothness, a feature that, if true, would defy natural geologic processes. While these anecdotes are largely anecdotal and lack rigorous documentation, they've cemented the sphere's status as enduring enigmas. The real intrigue lies in what the Klerksdorp spheres represent: a collision between human imagination and Earth's boundless capacity for creating mysteries. Geology often mimics artistry, from the hexagonal pillars of the Giant's Causeway to the swirling bands of Arizona's petrified forest. But when faced with objects that seem designed, our instinct is to search for a designer, even if that means reaching for explanations outside known history. This tension isn't unique to the spheres. From the iron pillars of Delhi that resist rust to the perfectly drilled holes in ancient Egyptian granite, our planet scatters puzzles that blur the line between natural wonder and engineered marvel. Perhaps the lesson here isn't about proving whether the spheres are ancient artifacts or quirks of mineralogy, but about humility. Earth's history spans billions of years, and for all our scientific advances, we've only scratched the surface of its secrets. The Klerksdorp spheres remind us that nature's workshop is vast and strange, capable of producing phenomena that challenge our assumptions at every turn. And sometimes the most profound mysteries aren't those that defy explanation, but those that force us to reconsider how much we think we know. As we turn from these metallic riddles to other sites where geology and archaeology intertwine, one question lingers: how many other, impossible objects are waiting to be re-examined, not as proof of lost civilizations, but as testaments to the astonishing creativity of the natural world? The boundary between the two might be thinner than we've dared to imagine. High in the Bolivian Andes, the ruins of Pumapunku stand as one of history's most baffling architectural puzzles. This ancient site, part of the larger Tiwanaku complex, is a field of shattered megaliths, each one cut with such geometric precision that they look like pieces of a colossal stone puzzle. The blocks, some weighing over 100 tons, feature razor-sharp edges, perfectly drilled holes, and interlocking grooves that would challenge modern stonemasons with laser-guided tools. Yet these stones were shaped over 1,000 years ago by a civilization that supposedly lacked metal tools, wheels, or even a written language. How could a culture from the depths of antiquity achieve craftsmanship that still leaves engineers scratching their heads today? The enigma begins with the stone itself, red sandstone and andesite, materials so hard they require diamond-tipped tools to cut cleanly in modern workshops. Some blocks at Pumapunku have surfaces so smooth they feel polished, with corners meeting at exact 90-degree angles. Others feature intricate channels and recesses that suggest they once interlocked with other stones like pieces of an ancient machine. The most perplexing are the H-shaped clamps, not carved but seemingly cast from molten metal to hold blocks together, a technique that shouldn't have existed in the Andes until centuries later. These details don't just hint at advanced skill. They imply a level of technical knowledge that defies conventional timelines of human development. Archaeologists propose various theories to explain this precision. Some suggest the Tiwanaku people used abrasive sand and copper tools to slowly grind the stone into shape, a painstaking process that could account for the smooth surfaces. Others point to possible lost tools, techniques, or materials that haven't survived in the archaeological record, like alloys harder than copper or specialized abrasives. Then there's the fringe theory that Pumapunku's builders had access to knowledge or technology far beyond what we've credited to ancient civilizations. Proponents of this idea highlight the site's resemblance to modular construction, with standardized blocks that could be assembled and disassembled like components of a larger system. But Pumapunku's mystery isn't just about how the stones were cut, it's about why they're scattered like debris from an explosion. The site isn't a carefully preserved ruin, it's a jumble of shattered blocks, many tossed aside as if by unimaginable force. Local legends speak of a cataclysmic event, a great noise that tore the structures apart. Geologists note the region is prone to earthquakes, but could seismic activity alone explain the sheer violence of the destruction? Some researchers speculate the ruins were dismantled intentionally, perhaps to repurpose the stones or erase the site's original function. What makes Puma Punku uniquely unsettling is how it forces us to reconsider the boundaries of ancient innovation. This wasn't just another temple or palace, it was a feat of engineering so advanced that even today, we struggle to replicate its precision without power tools. If the Tiwanaku people could achieve this with rudimentary technology, what else might they have known that history forgot? And if their methods were so revolutionary, why didn't this knowledge spread to other cultures? The stones of Puma Punku don't just lie in ruins, they lie in wait, silently daring us to unravel their secrets. As we move from these shattered marvels to other sites that defy explanation, a pattern emerges. Across the globe, ruins stand as silent witnesses to civilizations that may have reached heights we're only beginning to recognize. Whether through lost techniques, forgotten tools, or knowledge that slipped through the cracks of time, these structures remind us that history's timeline might be far more complex and far more fascinating than we've ever imagined. The Sumerian king list isn't just an ancient tablet, it's a cosmic riddle carved in clay. Discovered in the early 20th century across multiple Mesopotamian sites, this cuneiform document stretches back to the dawn of civilization around 2000 BCE. But what makes it truly extraordinary aren't the kings it names, but the staggering lengths of their reigns. Imagine rulers lasting for tens of thousands of years with one monarch, Ululim of Eridu, reportedly sitting on the throne for an impossible 28,800 years. Another, Enmen-Luana, supposedly reigned for 43,200. These aren't just exaggerated lifespans, they're timelines that dwarf the entirety of recorded human history. So what's really going on here? Was this pure mythology, a misunderstanding of timekeeping, or could there be a lost key to interpreting these numbers? One prevailing theory suggests these fantastical reigns are symbolic rather than literal. In many ancient cultures, long lifespans attributed to rulers or patriarchs served as metaphors for stability, divine favor, or the transfer of knowledge across generations. The Sumerians might have used these exaggerated numbers to signify dynastic eras rather than individual rulers, blending history with theology to legitimize their kings as intermediaries between gods and mortals. The list itself divides into two distinct sections: the antediluvian kings, those who ruled before the Great Flood, and the post-flood rulers whose reigns become progressively more plausible. This shift hints at a deliberate narrative device, marking the transition from mythic time to historical record. Then there's the astronomical angle. Some researchers propose the Sumerians measured royal reigns in shorter units, like months or seasons, later misinterpreted as years. If a year referred to a lunar cycle or agricultural cycle, a king's 43,000-year rule might translate to a more reasonable few decades. This theory gains traction when you consider other ancient cultures, like the Maya, who used multiple calendar systems simultaneously. The Sumerians, master astronomers, likely tracked time in ways modern scholars are still deciphering. But the most tantalizing idea, that the king list encodes a lost understanding of time itself. Ancient astronaut theorists speculate these numbers could reflect knowledge of precession, the slow wobble of Earth's axis that completes every 26,000 years. Could the Sumerians have preserved fragments of advanced astronomy from an even older civilization, recasting cosmic cycles as royal genealogies? While mainstream archaeology dismisses this as fringe, the precision of Sumerian star maps and their base 60 numbering system, which underlies modern timekeeping, suggests they saw time differently than we do. What makes the king list so compelling isn't just its numbers, it's what it reveals about how ancient cultures bridged the gap between the divine and the mundane. Unlike dry modern chronicles, this document blends history, myth, and cosmology into a single narrative, challenging us to reconsider where fact ends and symbolism begins. As we turn to other ancient records from Egypt's Turin king list to the biblical genealogies of Genesis, we're left wondering how many other civilizations encoded their truths in numbers we've yet to fully understand. The Sumerians didn't just record kings, they left us a puzzle written in the language of eternity, waiting for the right minds to decode it. On the windswept shores of Easter Island, where the silent Moai statues stand guard over a lost civilization, another mystery lurks in plain sight: the Rongo-Rongo script. Carved into wooden tablets with shark teeth or obsidian flakes, these intricate glyphs swirl in alternating lines, a writing system unlike any other in Polynesia. What makes Rongo-Rongo so baffling isn't just its undeciphered symbols: birds, plants, celestial bodies, and abstract shapes arranged with deliberate rhythm, but the fact that it exists at all. Easter Island, or Rapa Nui, is one of the most isolated inhabited places on Earth, thousands of miles from any culture known to have developed writing. So how did this unique script emerge in such seclusion? And what secrets does it hold about the island's tragic history? The glyphs themselves are a puzzle wrapped in an enigma. Unlike the linear scripts of Mesopotamia or Egypt, Rongo-Rongo reads in reverse baustrophedon, a serpentine pattern where one line flows left to right, then flips like a plowed field, with the characters themselves upside down on alternate lines. This complexity suggests a sophisticated system, not mere pictographs. Some researchers believe the tablets encode genealogies, chants, or even astronomical knowledge, while others argue they might be mnemonic devices, aiding oral traditions rather than conveying standalone text. The few surviving tablets, only about 24, remain, were nearly all burned or repurposed after European contact, leaving modern linguists with fragments of a linguistic jigsaw. What's truly tantalizing are the faint echoes of Rongo-Rongo in other Pacific cultures. Similar glyphs appear on petroglyphs in the Marquesas Islands, while certain symbols resemble motifs in Hawaiian kapa cloth designs. Could these scattered clues point to a broader, now vanished tradition of oceanic writing? Or did Rongo-Rongo develop independently, a cultural fluke born from isolation? The timing adds another layer. Most tablets date to the 18th or 19th century, after the island's societal collapse, raising the eerie possibility that Rongo-Rongo wasn't the product of a thriving culture, but a dying one's last attempt to preserve its knowledge. The script's isolation mirrors the island's own tragic narrative. Just as the Moai were toppled by internal strife and ecological devastation, Rongo-Rongo was nearly erased by slavery, disease, and missionary campaigns that dismissed it as pagan nonsense. Today, the few remaining tablets are scattered across museums, their messages frozen in time. Efforts to decode them using AI or comparative linguistics have yielded glimpses. Some glyphs might represent lunar calendars or creation myths, but the full story remains locked in wood and memory. Easter Island's isolation didn't just breed uniqueness, it created a cultural vault, sealing away innovations we're only beginning to glimpse. As we turn from this solitary script to other enigmas scattered across the globe, we're reminded that mystery thrives at the edges of maps of history and of human understanding. Some codes resist cracking not because they're meaningless, but because they guard truths too profound to be lost lightly. Deep in the gold-rich tombs of Colombia's Tolima region, a set of tiny artifacts has sparked a debate that straddles the line between archaeology and aerodynamics. These intricate gold figurines, crafted by the Quimbaya civilization between 1000 and 1500 CE, bear an uncanny resemblance to modern jet aircraft, complete with delta wings, stabilizers, and even what look like cockpit canopies. At first glance, they could be mistaken for souvenirs from an aerospace museum, not relics from a pre-Columbian culture that supposedly never left the ground. So what exactly are we looking at? Stylized birds, abstract insects, or evidence that ancient artisans glimpsed technology far beyond their time? The mainstream archaeological interpretation leans toward nature, not machinery. Many experts argue these figurines depict stylized birds or flying fish, with the wings representing exaggerated fins or feathers. The Tolima region teems with vibrant wildlife, and the Quimbaya were masterful at abstracting natural forms into symbolic art. Some figurines even have small, beak-like protrusions, reinforcing the bird theory. But here's where things get interesting. When engineers and aerodynamics specialists examined these objects, they noticed startling details. The wings are positioned too far back for most birds, matching the optimal lift-to-drag ratio of modern aircraft. The fuselage is streamlined in ways that minimize air resistance, and some models even feature vertical tail fins, a feature absent in nature but critical for stable flight. This has led to a more controversial interpretation. Could these figurines represent advanced flying machines? Proponents of this theory point to the Quimbaya's metallurgical sophistication. They were pioneers in lost wax casting, creating alloys with precision that still impresses modern jewelers. If they could manipulate metal so skillfully, might they have also understood principles of aerodynamics? Some researchers take it further, suggesting the figurines could be depictions of vehicles from a lost civilization or even extraterrestrial visitors. Ancient astronaut theorists love to cite these artifacts, but there's a catch. No physical evidence of aircraft or propulsion systems has ever been found in the region. The debate takes a fascinating turn when you consider other ancient artifacts that seem to defy their time. Egypt's Saqqara bird, a wooden model with falcon-like wings but a distinctly aerodynamic tail, has been tested in wind tunnels and shown to have gliding capabilities. The Abydos carvings, with their helicopter-like hieroglyphs, spark similar speculation. Are these mere coincidences, or could they hint at forgotten knowledge? The Tolima figurines don't exist in isolation. They're part of a global pattern of artifacts that look eerily anachronistic, as if ancient cultures were trying to capture something beyond their everyday experience. Perhaps the most compelling middle ground is that these objects blend observation with imagination. The Quimbaya might have seen birds in flight and abstracted their forms into something that, by sheer artistic intuition, mirrors the principles of flight we'd later engineer. Art often anticipates science, from Leonardo da Vinci's helicopter sketches to Jules Verne's lunar modules. The Tolima airplanes could be another example of creativity brushing against truth centuries before technology caught up. As we turn from these golden enigmas to other ancient artworks that seem out of place, the question lingers: how much of history's mystery is just our own failure to recognize the ingenuity of past cultures? The line between myth and reality blurs when artifacts challenge our assumptions, leaving us to wonder, were these artists dreaming of the future or recording something we've yet to fully understand? Deep in the gold-rich tombs of Colombia's Tolima region, a set of tiny artifacts has ignited a debate that blurs the lines between ancient artistry and modern engineering. The Quimbaya artifacts, delicate golden figurines crafted between 1000 and 1500 CE, look like they belong in an aerospace museum rather than a pre-Columbian archaeological site. With their sleek delta wings, tapered fuselages, and vertical tail fins, these objects bear an uncanny resemblance to modern jet aircraft, so precise that when scaled up and tested in wind tunnels, some models actually demonstrate aerodynamic stability. How could a civilization that never left the ground conceive of designs that mirror 20th century aviation principles? archaeologists offer a grounded explanation. These figurines likely depict stylized birds or insects, exaggerated by artistic convention. The Ptolemy region was teeming with wildlife, and the Quimbaya culture had a tradition of abstracting natural forms into symbolic art. Some figurines feature beak-like protrusions or segmented bodies, reinforcing the idea they represent creatures like hummingbirds or dragonflies. Yet the more you examine the details, the harder it becomes to dismiss the parallels. The wings are set unusually far back on the body, a configuration rarely seen in nature but optimal for reducing drag in supersonic flight. The fuselage is streamlined with a precision that suggests more than artistic flair. It hints at an intuitive grasp of fluid dynamics. Then there's the metallurgical mastery behind these objects. The Quimbaya were pioneers of lost wax casting, creating alloys with a gold-copper blend that gave their artifacts both luster and durability. This technical sophistication raises a tantalizing question. If they could manipulate metal with such precision, is it so far-fetched to imagine they understood basic principles of lift and thrust? Some researchers propose these figurines might represent gliders or even rudimentary flying machines, perhaps inspired by observation of wind-borne seeds or kites. Others go further, suggesting they could be depictions of advanced technology from a lost civilization, or even souvenirs of encounters with something beyond their understanding. The debate takes on new dimensions when you consider similar artifacts from other ancient cultures. Egypt's Saqqara bird, a wooden model with falcon wings and a distinctly aircraft-like tail, has been shown to glide when thrown. The Abydos carvings with their helicopter-like hieroglyphs spark comparable speculation. Are these mere coincidences, or could they point to a shared, forgotten thread of knowledge? The Quimbaya artifacts don't exist in isolation. They're part of a global tapestry of objects that seem to defy their time. Perhaps the most compelling middle ground lies in the intersection of art and intuition. Great artists often anticipate scientific discoveries, from Leonardo da Vinci's helicopter sketches to the wave-like patterns in Van Gogh's Starry Night that eerily resemble fluid turbulence. The Quimbaya might have observed birds in flight and, through creative abstraction, stumbled upon shapes that later engineers would recognize as aerodynamically sound. Or maybe these figurines served a ritual purpose, symbolizing a bridge between earth and sky, the mortal and the divine. What makes the Quimbaya artifacts so captivating isn't just their resemblance to modern technology. It's what they reveal about the boundless creativity of ancient cultures. Whether they're stylized birds, sacred symbols, or something more enigmatic, they challenge us to reconsider the limits of pre-Columbian knowledge. If artists a millennium ago could envision forms that mirror our own engineering, what other insights might have been lost to time? As we turn to the next mystery, the question lingers: how many other ancient artifacts are waiting to be re-examined, not as curiosities, but as clues to a past far more inventive than we've dared to imagine? Nestled in the forests of Salem, New Hampshire, the Mystery Hill megaliths have sparked debates that cut to the heart of North America's ancient past. Dubbed America's Stonehenge, this sprawling complex of stone chambers, aligned monoliths, and carved drains sprawls across 30 acres, its origins shrouded in as much controversy as the dense foliage surrounding it. The central enigma: who built these structures? Native Americans, transatlantic Celtic voyagers, or simply the whims of glacial activity and natural erosion? Each theory carries its own compelling evidence, and each challenges conventional narratives about pre-Columbian history. The site's most striking feature is its celestial alignment. A massive central slab, known as the sacrificial stone, points precisely to the sunrise during solstices and equinoxes, while nearby monoliths frame key lunar standstills. This precision has led some researchers to propose Celtic or Phoenician origins, pointing to similarities with European megalithic sites like Ireland's Newgrange or Cornwall's Men Antal. The so-called oracle chamber, a low stone passage that amplifies sound eerily during certain solar alignments, further fuels speculation about Old World influence. Could Bronze Age seafarers have crossed the Atlantic millennia before Columbus, leaving behind stone markers of their presence? Proponents of this theory cite controversial artifacts like the Bat Creek Stone, a slab found in Tennessee bearing what some claim is Paleo-Hebrew script, as fragments of a larger, forgotten narrative. Yet Native American scholars and archaeologists counter with a simpler explanation. The structures align with Algonquian ceremonial practices. The Abenaki people, who inhabited the region for thousands of years, built stone fishing weirs and ritual enclosures. The sacrificial stone might instead be a moss-covered mortar for grinding acorns, while the chambers could be colonial root cellars later romanticized as ancient mysteries. Geological studies add another layer, suggesting some formations are glacial erratics, boulders deposited by ice sheets, later arranged or modified by human hands. The truth likely lies somewhere in between, a palimpsest of indigenous ingenuity, colonial pragmatism, and natural phenomena, reinterpreted through modern fascination with the exotic. What makes Mystery Hill uniquely provocative is its refusal to fit neatly into any single narrative. Unlike England's Stonehenge or Peru's Saxehuaman, it lacks the clear cultural context that comes with continuous occupation or written records. Instead, it stands as a Rorschach test for historians, a site where every observer sees their own version of the past. This ambiguity mirrors a broader pattern. From the jungles of Brazil to the steppes of Siberia, megalithic structures appear on every continent, often in strikingly similar forms. Japan's underwater Yonaguni monuments, Ethiopia's stelae of Axum, and Australia's standing stones of Mullumbimby all whisper the same tantalizing question. Did ancient cultures share a lost architectural language, or is there something universal in the human impulse to shape stone into meaning? As the debate over Mystery Hill's origins continues, one thing becomes clear. Its greatest power lies not in proving who built it, but in reminding us how much history remains unexcavated. Whether Celtic altar, indigenous gathering place, or geological oddity, these stones challenge the boundaries of what we think we know. And in that challenge, they offer something far more valuable than answers: the thrill of the unanswered, the weight of a mystery still pressing against the edges of our understanding. Imagine walking through the echoing halls of the Library of Alexandria at its peak floors, stacked with scrolls from every corner of the known world, shelves groaning under the weight of Babylonian astronomy, Greek philosophy, Egyptian medicine, and Indian mathematics. This wasn't just a collection of books, it was the beating heart of ancient knowledge, a place where scholars from across the Mediterranean gathered to debate, discover, and push the boundaries of human understanding. Yet by the 5th century CE, it had vanished, its treasures scattered or burned, leaving behind only whispers of what might have been. The same fate befell the Imperial Library of Constantinople, a later beacon of learning that crumbled under sieges and neglect, taking with it irreplaceable manuscripts from Byzantium's Golden Age. These lost repositories weren't just buildings, they were black holes in history, swallowing entire civilizations' worth of wisdom in their collapse. What might we have learned from their collections? Consider the works of Eratosthenes, who calculated Earth's circumference with astonishing accuracy 2 centuries before Christ. Only fragments of his writings survive. Or the complete plays of Sophocles and Euripides, barely a tenth of their output remains intact. The library's shelves likely held treatises on engineering from Archimedes, medical texts from the School of Alexandria that could have advanced surgery by a millennium, and perhaps even maps charting lands beyond the Pillars of Hercules. Then there's the darker knowledge, the suppressed, the heretical, the ideas too radical for their time. Gnostic gospels challenging orthodox beliefs, early scientific theories dismissed as madness, or accounts of cultures erased by conquest. The true tragedy isn't just what we know was lost, but what we'll never realize existed. The Imperial Library of Constantinople's destruction is equally haunting. As the last stronghold of classical learning during Europe's Dark Ages, it preserved texts that would later spark the Renaissance, until the Fourth Crusade's sack in 1204 scattered its contents like leaves in a storm. Among the casualties, likely the complete histories of Procopius, including his scandalous secret history of Justinian's reign, of which only portions survive. Astronomical records from the Byzantines' observatories, detailing supernova or comets unrecorded elsewhere, and perhaps most tantalizing, the Lost Palatine Anthology, a collection of ancient Greek poetry that might have rewritten our understanding of lyric verse. Yet these famous libraries are just the tip of the iceberg. Lesser-known repositories met similar fates. The House of Wisdom in Baghdad, burned by the Mongols in 1258, its books thrown into the Tigris until the river ran black with ink. The Mayan codices of Mesoamerica, torched by Spanish missionaries, leaving only 4 surviving books. Even China's Qin dynasty purged philosophical texts in the 3rd century BCE, burying scholars alive with the scrolls they refused to surrender. Each loss represents a fracture in humanity's collective memory, a chapter ripped from the story we tell about ourselves. What makes these vanished libraries so haunting isn't just the knowledge they held, it's the reminder of how fragile our connection to the past truly is. For every masterpiece that survives, 100 may have vanished without a trace. The plays of Aeschylus, the medical breakthroughs of Hypatia, the naval charts of Phoenician explorers, all reduced to ash or mold, leaving only echoes in later texts that reference them obliquely. We're left to piece together history from fragments, like trying to reconstruct a symphony from a handful of stray notes, and yet hope lingers in the unlikeliest places. In 2001, archaeologists sifting through a garbage dump in Egypt unearthed scraps of Euripides' lost play Hypsipyle, preserved by sheer chance in ancient landfill. The villa of the Papyri in Herculaneum, though carbonized by Vesuvius eruption, is slowly yielding its secrets through advanced imaging technology, revealing philosophical texts unseen for 2 millennia. Even now, monks in remote Tibetan monasteries or forgotten Ottoman cellars might guard manuscripts waiting to rewrite history. The past has a way of resurfacing when we least expect it, offering glimpses of what once was and what might still be found. As we close this journey through 40 of antiquity's greatest mysteries, one truth becomes clear: the ruins of the past aren't just relics to be studied. They're invitations to question, to wonder, and to recognize how much of our story remains untold. Every crumbling wall, every half-translated inscription, every artifact gathering dust in a museum vault whispers the same tantalizing promise: there are still secrets waiting to be uncovered. And who knows, the next great discovery might be just beneath our feet, hidden in plain sight, ready to rewrite everything we thought we knew. The ancient world hasn't finished surprising us yet. When you step back and look at these 40 mysteries as a whole, patterns begin to emerge: echoes of lost technologies, whispers of civilizations erased by time, and the humbling realization of how much history remains unwritten. These aren't just isolated curiosities, they form a mosaic of human ingenuity and the fragility of memory. Consider the recurring motifs: the precision of Puma Punku's stonework mirroring the geometric perfection of the Saxehuaman lines, or the way the Antikythera Mechanism and Baghdad Battery both hint at bursts of innovation that flickered out before they could ignite broader revolutions. It's as if history isn't a steady march forward, but a series of sparks, some catching fire, others smothered by time. What unites these enigmas is their defiance of linear narratives. The Great Pyramids' hidden chambers and Göbekli Tepe's pre-agricultural temples force us to question the textbook timelines of human progress. Were these anomalies the work of isolated genius or fragments of a forgotten golden age? Even the controversies like the debate over the Ica stones or the Dropa discs reveal a deeper tension between skepticism and wonder. It's easy to dismiss what we can't explain, but these mysteries persist because they tap into a fundamental truth. The past is far stranger and far more inventive than we've been taught. The most compelling theme is the universality of these puzzles. From the Baltic Sea's eerie anomaly to the submerged ruins of Yonaguni, cultures separated by oceans and millennia arrived at similar ideas: pyramids, celestial calendars, even depictions of winged beings. This isn't coincidence, it's evidence of a shared human instinct to reach beyond the limits of our time. Whether through sacred geometry or sheer curiosity, ancient builders encoded their understanding of the cosmos in stone, knowing future generations might one day decipher their messages. Yet for all we've uncovered, the gaps in our knowledge loom larger. The Library of Alexandria's ashes remind us how much has been lost to war, disaster, or simple neglect. The Rongo-Rongo script, still undeciphered, and the Voinish manuscript's unreadable pages stand as monuments to the fragility of language itself. These aren't just academic exercises, they're invitations to stay curious, to keep sifting through the debris of time for clues that might rewrite our story. So where does this leave us? Not with tidy answers, but with something more valuable, questions that propel us forward. Every unexplained artifact, every ruin that defies its era, is a reminder that history isn't a closed book. It's a living dialogue between the past and present, one that challenges us to look deeper, think broader, and stay open to possibilities we haven't yet imagined. The next great discovery might be buried in a desert, hidden in plain sight in a museum vault, or even lurking in the pages of a text we've misread for centuries. The only way to find out is to keep digging, not just in the earth, but in the boundless landscape of human curiosity. What if history as we know it is merely the tip of an iceberg, with its deepest truths still submerged in time? From the celestial precision of the Antikythera Mechanism to the eerie silence of Rongo-Rongo's undeciphered script, these 40 mysteries aren't just footnotes, they're seismic cracks in the foundation of our understanding. Take Göbekli Tepe, a temple complex predating agriculture by millennia, or the Baghdad Battery, a spark of ancient electricity lost to the ages. Each discovery forces us to confront the same humbling question: how many civilizations rose, advanced, and vanished without leaving more than scattered clues for us to piece together? The real magic lies not in the artifacts themselves, but in what they represent: glimpses of knowledge that defy linear timelines. Consider the Quimbaya airplanes, golden figurines mirroring modern aerodynamics, or the Bagong pipes, metallic conduits embedded in rock dating back hundreds of thousands of years. These anomalies suggest a past far more dynamic than textbooks describe, where innovation might have flickered in isolated pockets before being extinguished by catastrophe or time. Even the ruins we think we understand, like the Great Pyramid with its hidden chambers, continue to reveal new layers, proving that antiquity still guards its closest secrets. What binds these puzzles together is their refusal to fit neatly into narratives. The Dropa stones and Ubaid lizardmen challenge our assumptions about human origins, while the Baltic Sea anomaly and Yonaguni monument blur the line between natural wonder and engineered relic. These enigmas don't just rewrite history, they shatter the illusion that we've ever had a complete story to begin with. Every crumbling wall or weathered inscription whispers the same truth. Our ancestors were far more than primitive societies waiting for modernity. They were astronomers, engineers, and philosophers whose achievements were only beginning to measure. So where does this leave us, not at an ending, but at a threshold? The ruins of antiquity aren't just relics to catalogue. They're provocations daring us to dig deeper, question louder, and stay relentlessly curious. For every mystery solved, like the once dismissed Vinland map now recognized as genuine, dozens more remain. From the copper scrolls' unfound treasure to the purpose of Karnac's sprawling stone armies. The past isn't a static record, it's a living conversation, and we've only just begun to listen. As you reflect on these riddles, remember, the greatest discoveries often start with a single anomaly that refuses to be ignored. What's your favorite unsolved mystery? Share it below, and who knows, your curiosity might spark the next breakthrough. Until then, keep exploring, because history's most thrilling chapters aren't just found in books. They're buried in deserts, submerged in oceans, and etched into stones that have waited millennia for someone to ask the right questions. The adventure isn't over.